Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Scroll to Sleep. Tonight, we're stepping away from the endless feed and settling in with some calming Reddit tales. If these stories help you find some peace and quiet, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's dive straight into the stories.
Story 1. I trusted my daughter with my life. She used that trust to steal everything I had left. My name is Harold Myers. I'm 73 years old. I spent 41 years as a certified public accountant in Kansas City, Missouri. I balanced books for restaurants, dental practices, car dealerships, you name it. Numbers were my language. Precision was my religion. And I'm telling you this so you understand something important. I am not a stupid man. But I was a lonely one. And loneliness, I've learned, is the crack in the foundation that lets the worst people crawl inside. My wife Donna passed in 2019. Pancreatic cancer, fast and cruel. After she died, the house on 87th Street got real quiet. I had 3 kids, Kevin, who lives in Denver, Lisa, who's down in Tulsa, and my youngest, Suzanne. Suzanne lived 20 minutes away in Overland Park. Kevin called once a week. Lisa called twice a month. Suzanne showed up every Sunday with a container of homemade chicken soup and a smile that could break your heart. I want you to remember that smile, because it's the last thing I saw before everything went dark. The diagnosis came in early 2021. Early stage dementia. My doctor, Dr. Pham, sat me down and explained it carefully. I'd have good days and bad days. My cognition would slip in small ways, forgetting where I put my keys, losing track of conversations, repeating myself. But I was still me. Still competent. Still capable of making my own decisions. That distinction matters more than you know, because Suzanne understood it perfectly. She understood that I was foggy enough to be guided, but sharp enough that no court would call me incapacitated. She found the sweet spot, and she lived in it. The Sunday visits became more frequent. Tuesdays. Thursdays. She started organizing my medications into those little plastic pill organizers. She drove me to appointments. She brought over casseroles and sat with me while I watched Jeopardy. I remember thinking, God, at least I have one kid who gives a damn. Kevin and Lisa, I told myself they were busy. They had their own lives. But Suzanne was here. Suzanne cared. That's what I told myself when she first mentioned the attorney. Dad, we should probably update your paperwork, she said one Thursday afternoon, casual as anything. You know your will, your medical stuff. It's been years. Mom's still listed on half of it. She wasn't wrong. Donna was still my healthcare proxy. My existing will was from 2014. So when Suzanne said she'd found a good estate attorney, a guy named Dale Whitford in Lenexa, I didn't think twice. She drove me there on a Wednesday morning. Nice office. Leather chairs. Dale was polite, professional, soft-spoken. He asked me questions. I answered them. Suzanne sat in the corner, quiet hands folded in her lap like she was at church. I signed what he put in front of me. I signed a new living will. I signed a durable power of attorney. I signed a healthcare directive. And I didn't read every word because my eyes get tired and the print was small, and Suzanne said she'd already reviewed everything and it was all standard. Standard. 3 months later, she took me back. There were updates, she said. Some language that needed tightening. I signed again. Then again, 2 months after that. Each time Suzanne drove. Each time Suzanne sat in the corner. Each time Dale Whitford slid papers across the desk. And I signed where the little yellow tabs told me to sign. I didn't know what I was signing. Not really. Not the specifics. And that's the part that keeps me up at night, because I should have known. 41 years of reading fine print for a living, and I let my own daughter hand me a pen and point. Here's what those documents said, as I eventually learned. The first revision removed Kevin and Lisa as co-beneficiaries of my estate and made Suzanne the sole heir. The second revision granted Suzanne full durable power of attorney, financial and legal, effective immediately, not upon incapacitation. The third revision named Suzanne as my exclusive healthcare proxy with authority to make end-of-life decisions, override physician recommendations, and restrict hospital visitation. She could decide who got to see me. She could decide when to pull the plug. She could sell my house, strain my accounts, and lock my other 2 children out of every room I'd ever be in. And it was all technically legal because I signed it. Because I wasn't legally incompetent. Because Dale Whitford asked me, "Mr. Myers, do you understand what you're signing?" And I said, "Yes." And maybe in that moment, I thought I did. Kevin found out by accident. He called my financial advisor in March 2022 to ask about my accounts. "Just checking in," he said. And the advisor told him he couldn't share any information because he was no longer an authorized party. Kevin called me confused. I didn't know what he was talking about. He called Lisa. Lisa didn't know either. Then Kevin drove 11 hours from Denver to Kansas City without telling anyone, walked into my house on a Tuesday morning, and found the copies of the documents in my filing cabinet. He sat at my kitchen table and read them out loud to me. Every word. And I sat there listening, and I felt something I hadn't felt since Donna died. I felt the floor disappear beneath me. "Dad," Kevin said, and his voice was shaking, "did you know Lisa and I aren't in your will anymore?" I didn't. I swear to God I didn't. I remembered signing papers. I remembered Dale's office. I remembered Suzanne telling me it was all standard. But I did not remember agreeing to cut my own children out of my life. Kevin hired a lawyer that same week. A woman named Patricia Okonkwo, out of an office on Metcalf Avenue. Sharp as a scalpel. She filed a petition in Johnson County Probate Court to challenge the validity of the documents alleging undue influence and exploitation of a vulnerable adult. And that's when Suzanne stopped bringing soup. The hearing was held in a conference room on the second floor of the Johnson County Courthouse. Fluorescent lights, drop ceiling, a long table with fake wood grain. It looked like the break room of a mid-tier insurance company, and it was the place where my family came apart. Suzanne sat across from me with her own attorney. She wore a navy cardigan and no makeup. She looked tired. She looked like a devoted daughter who'd been dragged into court by her jealous siblings. That was the play, and she executed it flawlessly. Her attorney argued that I had signed everything voluntarily, that I was assessed as competent at the time, that Dale Whitford had followed proper legal procedure, that Suzanne's increased involvement in my care was natural and appropriate given my diagnosis, that Kevin and Lisa had been largely absent. And here's the thing that made me sick. Some of that was true. Kevin was in Denver. Lisa was in Tulsa. They weren't here every Sunday. They weren't organizing my pills. They weren't driving me to the doctor. Suzanne was. And she'd built that presence deliberately, methodically, like she was constructing an alibi out of casserole dishes and prescription bottles. Patricia called Dr. Pham to testify. He explained my diagnosis. He explained that early-stage dementia creates a window, a period where the patient appears functional, but is highly susceptible to suggestion, particularly from trusted figures. He said, and I'll never forget this, Mr. Myers could tell you what day it was. He could sign his name, but he could not critically evaluate complex legal language or resist the influence of someone he depended on emotionally. Suzanne cried during that testimony. Real tears. I watched them roll down her face and I thought, are those for me? Or are those for the house, the accounts, the control she was about to lose? I'll never know. and that's the wound that won't close. The judge ruled in our favor. Partially. The documents were voided on grounds of undue influence. My original 2014 will was reinstated. A court-appointed guardian ad litem was assigned to oversee any future legal or medical decisions. Dale Whitford faced a bar complaint. Suzanne was not criminally charged, Patricia told me. It almost never gets that far. Undue influence is a civil concept. It lives in the gray. And Suzanne had been very, very careful to stay in the gray. Kevin and Lisa don't speak to Suzanne anymore. I don't either most days. She sent me a letter last Christmas. I opened it, read 2 lines, and put it in the trash. Not because I'm angry. Because I'm afraid. Afraid that if I read the whole thing, I'll feel that warmth again. That Sunday morning feeling of someone showing up. Someone choosing me. And I'll forget what it cost. I still live in the house on 87th Street. Kevin calls every other day now. Lisa flies in once a month. They're trying. But the house is still quiet. And some Sundays around noon, I catch myself listening for a knock at the door. Nobody comes. And I tell myself that's safer. I tell myself the silence is what protection sounds like. But it doesn't sound like anything, really. It just sounds like a man sitting alone in a kitchen wondering how the person who loved him the loudest was the one who meant it the least.
Story 2.
I watched my own words come out of his mouth on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sitting in the back row of Conference Room B on the 7th floor, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, and my manager, Greg Hollister, was standing at the front of the room presenting a 62-slide deck to the executive board. Every slide was mine. Every word. Every data point, every strategic pivot, every campaign framework I'd spent 11 weeks building from scratch while eating cold ramen at my desk past midnight. He didn't even change the font. I remember my hands going numb. I remember the sound of the CFO saying, "Greg, this is brilliant work." I remember Greg smiling, that practiced humble smile he does, and saying, "Well, I can't take all the credit, but I really felt passionate about this direction." He didn't look at me. Not once. My name is Elena Marsh. I'm 31 years old. I've been a data analyst at Kessler & Boone Marketing for 3.5 years. And for most of that time, I thought if I just worked hard enough, kept my head down, and delivered exceptional results, the right people would notice. The right people did notice. They just weren't the people I expected. Let me back up. Greg hired me. That's the part that makes this complicated. He pulled my resume out of a pile of 200 applicants, called me personally, told me he saw something special in my analytical approach. For the first year, I genuinely liked him. He was charming. Mentored me. Bought the team lunch on Fridays. He had this way of making you feel like you were part of something important, like the work mattered, like he saw you. The first time it happened, I almost didn't catch it. I'd written a client retention analysis, nothing flashy, just a deep dive into churn patterns for our biggest account. I sent it to Greg on a Thursday night. The following Monday, I overheard him on a call with the VP of Client Services, walking through my findings as if they'd come from his own brain. He used my exact phrasing. Behavioral decay curve. That was my term. I'd coined it. I told myself it was normal. Managers present their team's work. That's how it works. Right. But then it happened again. And again. A social media pivot strategy I'd developed for a pharmaceutical client. A competitive analysis framework I'd built using a methodology I'd literally invented during my master's thesis. Each time, Greg would ask me to send him my drafts for review. Each time those drafts would reappear in meetings, I wasn't invited to under his name with my fingerprints scrubbed clean. By the second year, I started keeping notes. Not because I had a plan, because I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. The real escalation came in October when Greg was nominated for the Kessler Award, the firm's annual prize for strategic innovation. The nomination was based on the Meridian campaign. My campaign, the one I'd built from a blank whiteboard over 6 months running regression analyses at 2 a.m, testing audience segments until my eyes bled. I'd even named it Project Meridian, because I'd been staring at a map of meridian lines when the core insight clicked. Greg won the award. He gave a speech. He thanked his incredible team in that vague, sweeping way that means nobody specific. I sat at table 6 and clapped. I smiled. I drank my wine. And when I got home that night, I sat on my bathroom floor and cried so hard I burst a blood vessel in my left eye. That was the night I started the file. I called it Insurance. A folder on an encrypted external drive. Every original draft with timestamps. Every email I'd sent. Greg, with my work attached. Every calendar invite I'd been excluded from where that work was later presented. I started screenshotting everything as Slack messages asking for my rough thoughts, followed by board presentations the next day using those exact rough thoughts polished and credited to him. Then I discovered something that changed everything. I was digging through old shared drives looking for a template when I found a folder labeled Archive Team Transitions. Inside were exit interview notes for 5 former analysts who'd worked under Greg over the past 4 years. All 5 had chosen to resign. All 5 had glowing performance reviews right up until their final quarter, when suddenly their ratings dropped. Phrases kept repeating across their files: lack of initiative, difficulty collaborating, not a culture fit. The same phrases Greg had started using about me in our last one-on-one. I tracked down 2 of them on LinkedIn. The first, a woman named Priya, didn't respond. The second, a guy named Marcus, called me back within an hour. His voice was shaking. "He did the same thing to you, didn't he?" Marcus said. He told me everything. The stolen work, the gaslighting, the way Greg would praise you in private and erase you in public. Marcus said he'd tried to report it, gone to HR, and within 2 weeks, Greg had put him on a performance improvement plan. Marcus resigned a month later. He said it nearly ended his career. That conversation rewired something in me. This wasn't just about my slides. This was a system. Greg had been feeding on junior analysts for years, consuming their work, spitting out their careers, and climbing the ladder on the bones of people too exhausted or too scared to fight back. I needed someone inside the building who had power and no loyalty to Greg. That's when I thought of Diane Okafor, the CEO's chief of staff. I'd met her once at a company town hall, and she'd asked me a sharp, specific question about data attribution that told me she actually understood what analysts do. More importantly, she reported directly to the CEO and operated completely outside Greg's chain of command. I didn't go to her office. I didn't send a dramatic email. I simply started BCCing her on every original draft I sent to Greg. Every single one. No explanation. Just the raw work timestamp from my company emailed days or weeks before Greg would present it as his own. I did this for 4 months. Then Greg made his biggest mistake. In February, he pulled me into his office and closed the door. He told me he'd heard I'd been talking to people outside the department about internal work. His voice was calm, but his eyes were different. Hard. He leaned forward and said, "And I will never forget this, Elena, I've built something here. And people who try to disrupt what I've built tend to find that this industry is smaller than they think." I asked him if that was a threat. He smiled and said, "It's advice." I went back to my desk. My hands were shaking. But this time, it wasn't from fear. I opened my email and forwarded his calendar invite for the meeting, the one that would show the closed-door session with no documented agenda, to Diane. Then I typed 3 words in the body of the email: "I'm ready to talk." Diane called me that evening from her personal phone. She told me she'd been watching. She'd received every BCC. She'd already begun cross-referencing my original drafts against Greg's board presentations. The timestamps weren't even close. My work proceeded as presentations by days, sometimes weeks. She'd also quietly pulled the personnel files of the 5 former analysts. She'd spoken to Marcus. She'd spoken to Priya, who had finally responded to Diane's outreach, even though she'd ignored mine. The pattern was undeniable. 3 weeks later, Greg was called into a meeting with the CEO, the general counsel, and the head of HR. He walked in, expecting to discuss his upcoming promotion to senior vice president. He did not get promoted. The investigation took 6 weeks. They found that Greg had systematically claimed credit for the original work of at least 7 employees over a 5-year period. They found deleted email threads he thought were gone. IT recovered them from backup servers. They found Slack messages where he'd explicitly told junior analysts not to present their own work because the executives prefer hearing it from leadership. They found the performance improvement plans he'd weaponized against anyone who pushed back. Greg was terminated. Not quietly. Not with a resignation package and a polite LinkedIn post about new opportunities. He was fired for cause. His Kessler Award was rescinded. The CEO issued an internal memo acknowledging that multiple employees had been harmed by a sustained failure of managerial accountability, and announced a new attribution policy requiring all strategic work to be credited to its original authors. I was offered Greg's position. I turned it down. I didn't want his office. I didn't want his title. I wanted something he never gave anyone. I wanted to be credited for my own work and left alone to do it well. They created a new senior analyst role for me instead. Corner desk. Direct line to the strategy team. My name on my own slides. Marcus came back to the company 4 months later. Priya didn't. She'd built something better somewhere else, but she sent me an email that said simply, "Thank you for being the one who didn't leave quietly." Here's what I learned. Silence isn't professional. Silence is what people like Greg count on. They build entire careers on the assumption that the people doing the real work will be too polite, too scared, or too tired to say anything. And most of the time, they're right. But not every time. Not this time.
Story 3.
I spent 40 years of my life drawing property lines. 40 years walking through woods, wading through creeks, hammering stakes into red clay, and telling people exactly where their land ended and someone else's began. I've seen grown men cry over 6 inches of dirt. I've watched families tear apart over a drainage ditch. I've testified in court 17 times, and every single time the line I drew held up. So when I retired to my 3 acres outside Greenville, Tennessee, I figured the one thing I'd never have to worry about was somebody moving a line on me. I was wrong. My wife Carol passed in 2021. Breast cancer. After that, I didn't do much. I sat on my porch. I drank coffee. I watched the birds hit the feeder. I let the grass grow a little longer than she would have liked. The house next door, a beat-up rancher on about 1.5 acres, sat empty for almost a year after old Mrs. Pemberton went into assisted living. Then, in March of 2023, a man named Dale Burgess bought it. Dale was what they call a real estate flipper around here, though that's a generous term. He bought distressed properties, slapped lipstick on them, and sold them to people moving down from up north who didn't know any better. He had a White Ram 3500, a Yeti cooler permanently mounted in the bed, and the kind of handshake that squeezed too hard. He knew people at the county. He said so within the first 5 minutes of meeting me. I nodded, smiled, went back inside. For the first couple months, it was just noise. Contractors coming and going. A dumpster in the driveway. power tools at 7 in the morning. I didn't complain. Man's got a right to fix up his property. Then one morning in May, I walked out to get my mail and noticed something. The fence between our properties, a simple post and wire affair that had been there since before Mrs. Pemberton's time, had been moved. Not a lot. Not enough that most people would notice. But I noticed. Because that's what I did for a living. The posts were new. The wire was new. And the line was about 18 inches closer to my house than it should have been. 18 inches doesn't sound like much. But over the length of that fence, roughly 210 feet, that's about 260 square feet of my land. My land. That Dale Burgess had quietly annexed to widen his driveway approach, so he could pour a concrete apron for a detached garage he was building in the back. I walked over and knocked on his door. Polite. Calm. I told him the fence had been moved and I'd appreciate it if he put it back. He looked at me with his half grin, the kind you give a dog that's barking at nothing, and said, "I don't think so, bud." Had my guy survey it. That's where the line is. I asked to see the survey. He said he'd get it to me. He never did. I called the county. Spoke to code enforcement. Spoke to the planning office. Spoke to a woman named Denise who sounded like she was eating lunch the entire time. They told me it was a civil matter. Boundary disputes between neighbors weren't something the county got involved in. I'd need to hire a lawyer. Now, I could have hired a lawyer. I could have filed a quiet title action, paid $8,000, and waited 14 months for a court date. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something more thorough. See, Dale Burgess made an assumption about me. He saw a 71-year-old man living alone in a house with peeling paint and a lawn that needed mowing, and he assumed I was someone who would just absorb the loss. Shrug it off. Let it go. That was a mistake. The first thing I did was pull my own original survey from when I bought the property in 2019. I had the plat, the meaties and bounds description, the iron pins, everything. I went out with my old equipment, my Topcon total station that I'd kept in the garage, and I ran the line myself. I was right, of course. 18¼ inches to be precise. I documented everything. Photos, measurements, GPS coordinates, dated and time-stamped. Then I started looking at Dale's property. Not the fence line. Everything else. 40 years in surveying teaches you something most people don't understand. Every piece of land has a paper trail, and that paper trail is public record. So I went to the County Register of Deeds. I pulled Dale's deed. I pulled Mrs. Pemberton's deed before his. I pulled the subdivision plat from 1974. I pulled every permit application associated with that parcel going back 20 years. And that's when things got interesting. The detached garage Dale was building, no permit. Not applied for, not issued, not pending. He was building a 600 square foot structure with electrical service and no permit whatsoever. In Greene County, that's a stop work order and a fine. But I didn't report it yet. I kept digging. I pulled the septic records from the health department. Mrs. Pemberton's house had a conventional gravity flow septic system designed for a 2-bedroom home. Dale had converted the house to 3 bedrooms and added a half bath. That's a material change in use that requires a septic evaluation and potentially a new system. He hadn't done any of it. The existing drain field was also according to the original installation permit from 1976. Partially located in the area where he was now pouring a concrete driveway apron. You cannot put impervious surface over a septic drain field. That's not a county code issue. That's a state environmental violation. I kept going. I looked at the survey Dale claimed to have had done. I filed a public records request for any surveys recorded on his parcel. There was one filed 3 months prior by a company called Ridgeline Land Services out of Morristown. I pulled it. I compared it to the subdivision plat. and I found something that made me sit back in my chair and whistle. The survey was fraudulent. Not sloppy. Not a mistake. Fraudulent. The bearing on the common line between our properties had been altered by 2 degrees. The distance had been shortened by 11 feet. The iron pin at the southeast corner of Dale's lot, which I physically located with a metal detector and found exactly where the 1,974 plat said it should be, was shown on Ridgeline's survey as being in a location that didn't exist. Someone had deliberately redrawn that line to give Dale an extra strip of my property. I filed a complaint with the Tennessee Board of Examiners for land surveyors. I included my own survey data, the original plat, and a side-by-side comparison. Then I started making phone calls. Not to lawyers. To the county. To code enforcement. To the health department. To the State Department of Environment and Conservation. I filed formal complaints, written, documented with exhibits, for the unpermitted garage, the septic violations, the impervious surface over the drain field, and the encroachment based on a fraudulent survey. I didn't file them all at once. I spaced them out over 6 weeks. 1 per week. Each one triggering a separate inspection, a separate file, a separate enforcement action. I also planted a row of Leyland cypress trees right along my actual property line, 18¼ inches from Dale's new fence. When he came over and asked what I was doing, I smiled and said landscaping. The county couldn't ignore written complaints with documentary evidence. The inspection started in August. The stop work order on the garage came first. Then the septic violation. Then the environmental referral. Each one carried fines. Each one required remediation. The garage had to come down, the driveway had to be torn up, a new septic system had to be engineered and installed. Dale came to my door in September. He wasn't grinning anymore. His face was red and his voice was shaking, and he called me things I won't repeat. He said I had no idea who I was messing with. He said he'd bury me. I told him to get off my property. All of it. The surveyor from Ridgeline had his license suspended pending investigation. Dale's contractor pulled off the job when the liens started stacking up. By November, Dale had over $47,000 in code enforcement fines, remediation costs, and penalties. He couldn't sell the property with the liens attached. He couldn't refinance. He couldn't finish the flip. In January of this year, the county foreclosed on the liens. Dale Burgess lost the property. The whole thing. Not because of a lawsuit, not because of a judge, because of paperwork. Because every violation was real, every complaint was legitimate, and every single line I drew was exactly where it was supposed to be. The new fence came down in February. My cypress trees are about 4 feet tall now. They'll be 20 in a few years. Carol would have liked them. I still sit on my porch. I still drink my coffee. I still watch the birds. But every now and then I look over at that empty lot next door and I think about Dale Burgess and his too-hard handshake, and I allow myself a small, quiet satisfaction. 40 years drawing lines. And nobody moves mine.
Story 4.
I trusted my sister with my daughter's future, and she fed it to a food truck. That's the version I tell people now because it's easier than explaining the whole thing. Easier than describing what it feels like to sit at your own Thanksgiving table, stuffing still warm in the dish, and watch your entire world crack open on a laptop screen while your sister pours herself another glass of Pinot Grigio like nothing's wrong. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Dana. I'm 41. I've been a single mother since my daughter Lily was 3, which means I've been doing this alone for 15 years in a 2-bedroom house in Westerville, Ohio, working as an office manager at a dental practice. I don't say that for sympathy. I say it so you understand what $47,000 means to someone like me. That wasn't investment money. That wasn't inherited wealth. That was 15 years of skipping vacations, driving a car with 200,000 miles on it, eating rice and beans on Fridays, so I could put $200, $300, sometimes $400 a month into a savings account, earmarked for one thing: Lily's college fund. My sister Bridget was the one who helped me set it up. She worked at a credit union for 6 years, knew the best interest rates, knew how to structure everything. When she suggested a joint account so she could help me manage it, move money around when rates changed, handle paperwork when I was busy, I didn't think twice. She was my sister. She was all I had left after our parents died. I handed her the keys to my daughter's future and I thanked her for taking them. For 3 years, everything looked fine. Bridget would text me quarterly updates. "Fun's looking good, sis. Hit 45K this month." I'd feel this warm rush of pride like I was actually pulling it off. Like Lily was going to walk onto the campus at Ohio State without the crushing debt that had buried me for a decade after my own degree. I never logged into the account myself. Why would I? Bridget had it handled. Bridget always had everything handled. Then came Thanksgiving 2023. Lily was upstairs FaceTiming her boyfriend. Bridget was in the kitchen doing dishes. I sat down at the dining table to look up a recipe on Bridget's laptop, which she'd left open. The browser had 2 tabs. One was Pinterest. The other was the credit union's online portal. I almost didn't click it. I almost went straight to Pinterest. But the tab showed a balance preview and the number I saw made my hand freeze over the trackpad. $4,211. I stared at it. I clicked the tab. I read it again. I scrolled down through the transaction history and the kitchen sounds behind me. Water running, Bridget humming some song. They went muffled like someone had stuffed cotton in my ears. Withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal. 2,000 here, 1,500 there. Sometimes 3 times a month. All going to the same external account. Over 3 years, $42,000 had been siphoned out of my daughter's college fund. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scroll. I started clicking on the transfer details. The receiving account was registered to a name I recognized. Derek Molina. Bridget's boyfriend of 2 years. The guy who'd been launching a gourmet taco truck called Fuego Bites that, as far as I could tell, had never actually served a single taco to a paying customer. Every family gathering, Derek talked about his brand and his investor pipeline and his plans to franchise. I'd smiled and nodded. I'd even bought one of his branded t-shirts. $25. To the man who was stealing my daughter's education. I took photos of every screen, every transaction, every transfer detail. My hands were still shaking, but some cold, clear part of my brain had taken over. The part that had kept me alive through a divorce, through burying both parents in the same year, through all of it. I screenshotted everything and sent it to my own email. Then I closed the tab and walked into the kitchen. Bridget turned around drying a casserole dish and smiled at me. "You want me to wrap up the leftover pie?" I looked at her face. The same face I'd known for 41 years. The face that had cried next to me at Mom's funeral. The face that had held Lily as a baby when I was too exhausted to stand. And I said, "Sure. Pie sounds great." I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed running the math over and over. Lily's acceptance to Ohio State had come in October. We'd celebrated with cake. She'd cried happy tears. tuition, room, and board books, we'd budgeted it all based on a fund that no longer existed. Freshman year started in August. That was 6 months away. 6 months and I had $4,000 where there should have been $47,000. I called Bridget 3 days later. I didn't ambush her. I didn't scream. I asked her to meet me at a Panera near her apartment because I thought a public place would keep me from doing something I'd regret. She showed up in yoga pants holding an iced coffee looking like it was any other Tuesday. I set my phone on the table between us, screen up showing the account statement. Explain this. The color left her face in stages. First her cheeks, then her lips. Then even her ears went white. She didn't pick up the phone. She didn't need to. She knew exactly what she was looking at. Dana, I was going to put it back. That sentence, I will hear that sentence on my deathbed. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I'm old and fading, those 6 words will still be rattling around in my skull. I was going to put it back. As if $42,000 is a library book. As if you can just slide it back on the shelf and no one notices it was gone. Derek's truck is about to take off, she said. We have investors coming in January. I swear to God, Dana, I was going to replace every penny before Lily needed it. Lily needs it now, Bridget. She needs it in 6 months. I know. I know. And I'll figure it out. Just give me... You've had 3 years. My voice didn't crack. I wanted it to. I wanted to cry, to scream, to flip the table. But nothing came out except this flat, dead calm that scared me more than anger would have. You've had 3 years and $42,000, and you've given it to a man who sells nothing from a truck that doesn't run. She started crying. Real tears, messy tears, the kind that make people at other tables look over. She told me Derek had promised returns. She told me the truck had equipment problems, permit delays, bad luck. She told me she loved him and she'd made a mistake, and she was sorry. She was so sorry. I sat there and watched my sister cry, and I felt nothing. That was the worst part. Not the money. Not the betrayal. The nothing. The realization that the person sitting across from me was a stranger who happened to share my DNA. Are you going to tell Lily? She whispered. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get my daughter to college in August. I hired a lawyer the following week. A woman named Carla who specialized in financial fraud and didn't blink when I told her the defendant would be my own sister. She said the case was strong. Joint account, documented unauthorized transfers, clear paper trail to a third party. She said we could pursue civil recovery and potentially criminal charges for theft by deception. Bridget called me 14 times the day she was served. I let every call go to voicemail. Her messages started apologetic and ended threatening. She said I was tearing the family apart. She said Mom and Dad would be ashamed of me. She said that to me. The one who'd spent 15 years saving? The one who'd been stolen from? Derek, for his part, vanished. Closed his social media. Shut down the Fuego Bites website. Bridget told my cousin he'd moved to Kentucky. The food truck, I later learned, had been repossessed by a lender in November, a full month before Thanksgiving. Which means, when Bridget was still texting me those cheerful updates about the fund, she already knew the money was gone and the business it went to was dead. The court date is in March. My lawyer is confident we'll get a judgment. Whether Bridget can actually pay is another question. She has a condo with some equity. She has a retirement account. Carla says we can pursue garnishment. It'll be slow. It'll be ugly. In the meantime, I started a GoFundMe that Lily doesn't know about. I picked up weekend shifts at a catering company. Lily's high school counselor helped us apply for emergency financial aid and last-minute scholarships. We'll cobble it together. We always do. Lily asked me last week why Aunt Bridget wasn't coming to Christmas. I told her we'd had a disagreement. She looked at me with those sharp, knowing eyes, she's 18, not stupid, and said, "Is it about money?" I said, "Yeah, baby, it's about money." She hugged me and said, "We'll be okay, Mom." And I held my daughter in my kitchen in Westerville, Ohio, and I thought about all the rice and beans, all the skipped vacations, all the Friday nights. I said no to myself so I could say yes to her future. I thought about my sister's face at Panera, white as paper, mouth full of promises that were already broken before she made them. Some people will tell you blood is thicker than water. That family forgives. That you should keep the peace at any cost. But those people have never watched someone they love steal from their child and call it borrowing. I'm not keeping the peace. I'm keeping the receipts.
Story 5.
I found the listing on a Tuesday night in February, scrolling through Airbnb with one hand while Megan slept against my shoulder on the couch. Lake house on Cayuga. Private dock. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. The photos looked like something out of a magazine. Warm wood-exposed beams, a clawfoot tub with a view of the tree line. The host, a guy named Gerald, had 47 5-star reviews. Immaculate, so peaceful. Gerald thinks of everything. Our 3-year anniversary was coming up, and I wanted to do something that didn't involve another overpriced restaurant in Brooklyn. So I booked it. I wish to God I hadn't. We drove up on a Friday afternoon in March. 3.5 hours through gray highways and bare trees until the GPS took us down a gravel road that narrowed to almost nothing. The lake appeared through the woods like a sheet of dark glass. The house was set back maybe 40 feet from the water, exactly like the photos. Gerald met us at the door, mid-50s, thin wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of guy who looks like he'd teach high school biology. He gave us the tour. Showed us the kitchen, the thermostat, where the extra blankets were. Pointed out the basement door and said there was nothing down there but the water heater and some old paint cans. He shook my hand, told us to enjoy our stay, got in his Subaru and drove away. Or so we thought. The first night was perfect. We cooked pasta, drank a bottle of wine, sat on the dock, wrapped in a blanket, and watched the stars come out over the lake. We went to bed around midnight. I slept like the dead. When I woke up Saturday morning, Megan was already in the kitchen making coffee. She mentioned almost as a throwaway that her suitcase zipper was on the wrong side. She always zips left to right. It was zipped right to left. I told her she probably just forgot. She shrugged. We moved on. Saturday was good. We hiked a trail along the ridge, came back, took a bath in that clawfoot tub, read our books. Normal anniversary stuff. That night I opened a bag of chips we'd brought and noticed it was already open. The seal was broken. I figured I'd done it absent-mindedly when we unpacked the groceries. Sunday morning, Megan's suitcase was rezipped wrong again. This time, she didn't shrug. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared at it for a long time. "Someone's been in here," she said. "Meg, come on. We're in the middle of nowhere." I zip it the same way every single time. Left to right. This is the second morning. I check the front door. Locked. Check the windows. All latched. Check the back door. Locked from the inside. I told her there was no way anyone had been in the house. But she started paying attention to everything after that. And that's when things began to unravel. Monday morning, our last full day, she woke me up at 6. Her face was pale. She pulled me into the bathroom and turned on the faucet so the water was running. I thought she was losing it. Then she whispered, "The bananas." We'd bought a bunch of 5 bananas on Friday. We'd each eaten one. There should have been 3 left. There were 2. And her suitcase was re-zipped wrong for the 3rd time. She'd placed a tiny piece of tape on it the night before a trick she'd read about somewhere. The tape was broken. I felt something cold settle into my chest. She pulled out her phone and showed me that she'd been taking photos of the kitchen counter every night before bed. In the photo from last night, the dish towel was draped over the oven handle. This morning, it was folded on the counter. A chair at the kitchen table was pulled out slightly, maybe 2 inches from where it had been. "Someone is coming in here while we sleep," she said. And I believed her. We searched the house. Every closet, every cabinet. I went down to the basement, even though Gerald said there was nothing there. Water heater, old paint cans, concrete walls. But Megan came down after me, and she's more observant than I am. She's always been more observant than I am. She pointed to the far wall. There was a shelf unit, the kind you get at Home Depot, metal frame pressboard shelves loaded with old cans of stain and turpentine. But the dust pattern on the floor was wrong. There were faint arc marks in the dust, like the shelf had been swung open and closed. Repeatedly. I grabbed the shelf frame and pulled. It swung out on hidden hinges like a door. Behind it was a room, maybe 8 by 10 feet. A cot with a sleeping bag on it. A mini fridge humming quietly. A folding table with 2 monitors showing live feeds, our bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. All 4 rooms. Grainy but clear. There were timestamps running in the corner of each feed. I could see our empty bed on one screen. The kitchen where we'd just been standing on another. On the table next to the monitors was a half-eaten banana. Megan made a sound I'd never heard come out of her before. Not a scream, more like the air being punched out of her lungs. I grabbed her hand and we ran upstairs. I wanted to leave immediately, but she stopped me. She was shaking, but she had her phone out. She started filming. She went back down those stairs and filmed everything, the hidden room, the monitors, the cot, the food. She filmed the pinhole cameras we found afterward, tiny glass dots embedded in the ceiling of every room, painted over to blend with the drywall. She filmed the shelf on its hinges. She filmed all of it. Then she did something I wouldn't have thought to do. She sat in the car with the doors locked and started going through every single review on Gerald's listing. 47 reviews, all 5 stars. But she noticed something. She started clicking on the reviewer profiles. Most of them were couples. And about a dozen of those profiles were now deactivated. No photo, no other reviews, no activity. Ghost accounts. She scrolled back to a review from 14 months ago, left by a couple named Jess and Tom. 5 stars. Beautiful property. Gerald is a wonderful host. She searched their names on the platform. Nothing. She searched variations on social media. She found a Facebook post from someone named Jessica Moran in Albany, posted 11 months ago asking if anyone had heard from her sister Jess and her boyfriend Tom. They'd gone on a trip upstate and stopped responding to messages. The post had 42 comments. No resolution. I called 911 from the car. I was trying to keep my voice steady, but I could hear it cracking. We waited 40 minutes for a sheriff's deputy to arrive. 40 minutes sitting in that car, watching the front door of that house, knowing there were cameras inside, still recording an empty room, knowing that man had stood at the foot of our bed while we slept. I kept thinking about the chair pulled out 2 inches. About him sitting there, in the dark, eating our food, watching us breathe. The deputy was skeptical until we showed him the footage on Megan's phone. Then his face changed. He called for backup. Within 2 hours, there were 4 cruisers and a state police forensics van in the driveway. They found Gerald's Subaru parked a quarter mile up the gravel road, tucked behind a stand of pines. He'd never left. Every time a guest checked in, he'd park up the road, walk back through the woods, and enter the basement through a hatch concealed under the back deck that we never even noticed. He'd been living in that room for the duration of every single booking. They arrested him that evening at a gas station 11 miles away. He'd seen the cruisers and fled on foot through the woods before circling back to his car. When they searched the hidden room more thoroughly, they found a drawer under the cot containing dozens of SD cards, each one labeled with dates and first names. Years of footage. Years of guests. They also found personal items that didn't belong to Gerald. A woman's hair clip, a man's watch, a phone with a cracked screen. They haven't confirmed publicly who those items belong to. But Jess and Tom still haven't been found. Megan and I drove back to Brooklyn that night. Neither of us spoke for the first hour. She's in therapy now. She sleeps with the lights on and checks every closet before bed. I installed cameras in her apartment, which I realize is its own kind of irony, so she can watch the feeds from her phone when I'm not home. Airbnb removed Gerald's listing within 48 hours. No public statement. No acknowledgement. Just gone. Like it never existed. Just like those guests. I think about that a lot. How easy it is to disappear from a platform. How a 5-star review can be written by someone who has no idea what happened to them yet. How a locked door means nothing if the person you're locking out is already inside. Megan's tape trick saved us. A piece of Scotch tape the size of a fingernail. That's what separated us from whatever happened to the people who came before. I don't know if I'll ever sleep soundly again. But at least I woke up.
Story 6.
It all started when Chloe lost her job in July. 9 years we'd been together, engaged for 2. We had a rhythm, a life built brick by brick. Then the marketing firm downsized and suddenly her rhythm was gone. She started going out more, reconnecting with friends, she said. I didn't think much of it. She was hurting. She needed a distraction. The first crack appeared in August. A weird text on her phone, a name I didn't recognize. When I asked her, face went pale. It's nothing, she said, snatching the phone back. Just an old colleague. But her hands were shaking. That night, she broke down crying. I have to tell you something, she sobbed into my chest. I kissed someone. My world tilted. Kissed someone, just a kiss. A stupid, drunken mistake at a bar, she swore. She was lost, feeling worthless after the layoff, and this guy gave her attention. It hurt like hell, but 9 years is a long time. People make mistakes. We could fix this. Is that it? I asked, my voice tight. Just a kiss. Yes, she whispered, her eyes wide and pleading. I swear. It meant nothing. I love you. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. A week later, the story changed. It wasn't just a kiss. They'd gone on a date. Maybe 2. I was just so lonely, she explained, twisting the ring I gave her around her finger. We just talked. That's all. Another week, another piece of the puzzle. They had slept together. Once. Just once, she insisted, tears streaming down her face again. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I stopped it right after. It's over, Silas. I promise you it's over. That was our first D-Day in early September. A full confession, I thought. The rock bottom from which we could rebuild. We talked for hours. I yelled, I cried, I asked a million questions. She answered them all with what seemed like brutal honesty. He was a mistake. A symptom of her depression. She chose me. She chose us. We agreed to marriage counseling. We agreed to a clean slate. For a few weeks, things felt almost normal. She was more attentive, more affectionate. She was trying. I was trying. Then she announced a trip. A solo trip to clear her head. She was going to visit an old college friend in Portugal for a week. I need this, sighed she said, her hands on my cheeks. To find myself again. To be the woman you deserve when I come back. I was hesitant, but I agreed. It felt like a test of trust. A grand gesture to prove I was all in on fixing us. She sent me pictures from Lisbon, cobblestone streets, beautiful sunsets, smiling selfies of just her. Missing you like crazy, the text read. Can't wait to come home to you. But when she got back, something was still off. A distance I couldn't bridge. She was secretive with her phone jumping if I walked into the room while she was texting. She started staying late at the library working on her resume, she said. I felt a familiar knot tightening in my gut, but I pushed it down. I was being paranoid. We were healing. The breaking point didn't come from a text message or a suspicious phone call. It came from our shared laptop. I was looking for an old tax return, digging through the folders on the desktop. My mouse hovered over a folder named Summer Fun. I figured it was photos from our trip to the lake in June. I clicked. It wasn't our lake trip. The first things I saw were PDF files, Airbnb receipts. One for a cozy apartment in Lisbon, Portugal. Booked for 2 adults. Another for a weekend getaway upstate. From 2 weeks ago, the dates lined up perfectly with her solo trip and a weekend she'd supposedly spent with her sister. My heart started hammering against my ribs. My breath caught in my throat. I clicked on another folder inside this one labeled Pics. There she was. My Chloe. Her arm was slung around another man's shoulder, a stupid grin on his face. They were standing in front of a landmark I recognized from the photos she'd sent me from Portugal. Another picture showed them at a candlelit dinner clinking wine glasses. He was the guy from the text message. The one-time mistake. I kept clicking, my hand trembling. Each photo was a fresh stab to the gut. There they were, hiking upstate, the autumn leaves a brilliant orange behind them. And then I saw it. The one that shattered everything. A selfie dated last Saturday. The day she was supposedly at the library all night. They were in a car, her head on his shoulder, and he was kissing her cheek. She was smiling. A genuine, unguarded, happy smile. The kind she hadn't given me in months. The sadness I'd been drowning in for months vanished. It didn't just fade, it was burned away by a sudden white-hot rage. The trickle of truth wasn't a confession. It was a strategy. A way to manage my reaction to keep me on the hook while she lived a completely separate life. All the tears, the promises, the I choose you speeches, it was all a performance. I stood up from the computer, my body feeling strangely calm, detached. The 9 years we'd built together crumbled into dust in that single moment. There was nothing left to save. There was nothing left to fix. I walked over to the window and stared out at the city lights, the life we were supposed to share. For the first time in months, I wasn't confused or heartbroken. I was just done. I pulled out my phone. My thumb moved with a purpose I hadn't felt in a long time. First, I called my brother. Then my parents. I told them everything. The whole ugly, unvarnished truth. They were shocked, furious, supportive. It was the easiest conversation I'd ever had. After I hung up, I opened a new text message. Her name, Chloe, stared back at me from the screen. I deleted the heart. Then I started to type. I found the folder, Chloe. Come get your things. We're done. I hit send. There was no hesitation, no second guessing. The words looked cold and alien on the screen, but they felt like the first honest thing I had said in months. Her reply was almost instant. A series of question marks. Then, what folder? See, what's going on? Call me. I ignored it. I walked into our bedroom my times bedroom, and pulled 2 empty suitcases from the top of the closet. I opened them on the bed and began methodically taking her clothes from the hangers, folding them neatly and placing them inside. The scent of her perfume, a scent that used to feel like home, now smelled like a stranger's. An hour later, I heard her key in the lock. The door opened, and she stepped inside, her face a mask of worried confusion. "Silas, what the hell was that text I've been calling you?" I didn't look up from packing her drawer of sweaters. "It's exactly what it sounds like," I said, my voice flat. The folder on the laptop. "Summer fun. Portugal. Last weekend. All of it." "I know." Her face went from confused to ghostly white. The performance began immediately. Her eyes welled up, her lower lip trembled. "Oh, baby, no. It's not what you think. Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said, zipping the first suitcase shut and placing it by the bedroom door. "You've been explaining for months. It was all bullshit." "It wasn't bullshit," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "I love you. He was a mistake. I was weak." "You flew across the ocean with your mistake." I cut her off, my voice rising for the first time. "You spent last weekend with him while telling me you were at the library." "The lies, Chloe. The sheer number of them. It's sociopathic." She started to sob the full-body, gut-wrenching sobs I had fallen for every single time before. But now, it was like watching a movie with the sound off. I felt nothing. "My mom and dad are on their way over," I said calmly, starting on the second suitcase. "My brother too. They're going to help me move your stuff into a storage unit." That's what broke her. The tears stopped instantly. Her head snapped up, her eyes narrowing into slits of pure fury. "You told your times, family times," she spat the word family, dripping with venom. They deserved to know why the wedding was off. "You had no right," she screamed, her face contorting. "That was our private business. You did that just to humiliate me." She stormed past me, grabbing a handful of my shirts from the closet. She marched to the front door, wrenched it open, and threw them out into the hallway. "You want to see humiliating?" she yelled, grabbing another armful. "T-shirts, a jacket, a pair of jeans I loved." All of it went flying. "This is your time's fault. You know that. 9 years and you couldn't even be bothered to fuck me right anymore. You were boring, you were never spontaneous, never exciting. Of course I looked for it somewhere else." I just stood there watching her. It was incredible. Not a single apology. Not a shred of remorse. Just pure, uncut rage that I had discovered her game and ruined her fun. "You were so wrapped up in your stupid job, you barely even noticed I was gone," she continued, her voice ragged. "You pushed me away, Silas. You pushed me right to him." She grabbed the framed photo of us from the nightstand, the one from our engagement party. For a second, I thought she was going to smash it. Instead, she stared at it, her face twisting again, this time into something that looked like pain. She threw it into one of her suitcases and slammed the lid shut. "Fine," she hissed, grabbing her bags. "I'll go. But you'll regret this. You'll be miserable without me." She dragged the suitcases out the door, leaving my clothes strewn across the hallway floor. The door slammed shut behind her and the apartment fell into a deafening silence. I stood there for a long moment, then slowly walked out and began picking up my shirts. I wasn't miserable. I was free. The first few weeks were a barrage. Late-night texts filled with a cocktail of apologies and accusations. Asterisk 117 a.m. I can't sleep. The bed feels so empty. Asterisk. Asterisk 122 a.m. You didn't even fight for us. 9 years, and you just threw it away. Asterisk. Asterisk 2:05 a.m. Please, Silas. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut him off forever. I'll tell you everything. Asterisk. But she never did. When I broke my no contact rule once, foolishly demanding the unvarnished truth as a condition for even speaking to her, she gave me the same old story. It was just a few times. It meant nothing. The lies were so ingrained, she couldn't even tell the truth when there was nothing left to lose. I blocked her number. I started therapy. My therapist called it reclaiming the narrative. I wasn't the boring, inadequate man she painted me as in her final desperate attack. I was a man who had been systematically deceived by a person he trusted with his entire world. Slowly, life started to come back in color. I reconnected with friends. I went to the gym. I even went on a few dates. They were awkward and strange, but they were also a reminder that there was a world outside the wreckage Chloe had left behind. About 4 months later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello. C. It was her. Her voice was thick, with tears broken. I didn't know who else to call. I waited, saying nothing. The silence on the line was heavy. I lost my new job, she finally choked out. They had another round of layoffs. It's just like before. I don't know what to do. And there it was. The full circle moment. The same catalyst that started her affair happening all over again. A year ago, this call would have sent me rushing to her side, ready to comfort and fix and save. I braced myself for the expected wave of pity or anger or some lingering echo of love. But nothing came. I felt a profound, unnerving, and deeply peaceful indifference. The person on the other end of the line was a stranger telling me a sad story that had nothing to do with me. The emotional charge was gone. The wires had been cut. I'm sorry to hear that, Chloe, I said, and my voice was even calm. I hope things work out for you. She started to say my name again, her voice pleading, but I didn't let her finish. Goodbye. I ended the call and blocked the number. I looked out my window at the same city lights I'd stared at the night I found the folder. Back then they felt like a monument to a life I had lost. Now they just looked like a city full of possibilities. And for the first time in a very long time, I was excited to see what came next.
Story 7.
Her name was Bessie. A 1,972 Ford F-100 seafoam green with a white roof, and more of my family's history in her steel than a photo album could ever hold. She wasn't just a truck. She was a time capsule. My grandpa bought her brand new off the lot, paid in cash he'd saved from working the docks. He taught my dad to drive stick and or the gear shift, worn smooth by their hands. Then my dad taught me. Every Saturday from the time I was 10 until I left for college, my dad and I were in the garage with Bessie. We rebuilt the 302 engine bolt by bolt. I learned the smell of gasoline and grease, the satisfying click of a ratchet, the sting of brake fluid on a scraped knuckle. Her bench seat had absorbed my grandpa's cigar smoke, my dad's coffee spills, and more than a few of my teenage tears over some girl who didn't matter. When my dad handed me the keys on my 18th birthday, it wasn't just a truck. It was a baton, a legacy. The keys felt heavier than any car I've ever owned. When I moved in with Sarah, Bessie came too. She was the one non-negotiable. She got the garage. My Civic could sit in the driveway and brave the elements. Sarah thought it was cute at first, my obsession with the old farm truck. She'd even bring me a beer while I was polishing the chrome on a Sunday afternoon. Our arrangement was simple, or so I thought. I worked. A lot. As a foreman for a commercial construction crew, my days started before the sun was up. and often ended long after it was down. The money was good, great, even. It paid the mortgage on our nice suburban house, paid for her online classes, paid for the 2 ridiculously fluffy cats she'd insisted we adopt. In return, she handled the domestic side of things. Groceries, cooking, cleaning. It was a deal we made. It worked until it didn't. The cats were the first crack. Their names were Sterling and Archer. They were her babies, but my responsibility apparently. The friction started slowly. A sigh when I came home and collapsed on the couch instead of immediately playing with them. A pointed comment about how the litter box was getting full. Last Tuesday, it boiled over. I'd pulled a 14-hour shift wrestling with a concrete pour that went sideways. I got home smelling like sweat and misery, my boots caked in mud. All I wanted was a hot shower and a cold beer. I walked in the door and was hit with the ammonia stink of an overdue litter box. Julian, seriously, Sarah was standing in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, face tight. "Hey, honey, rough day," I mumbled, trying to sidestep her. She blocked my path. "I asked you to do the litter box this morning. I even left a note." I honestly didn't remember. The morning was a blur of coffee and rereading blueprints. "Shit, Sarah, I'm sorry." I was rushing. "I'll do it, just let me shower first." "No, you'll do it now." "It stinks. The whole house stinks. It's disgusting." Something inside me, worn thin from the long day, finally snapped. "Okay, fine. I'll do the damn litter. But my job pays for this house you're complaining about." "It pays for the cat food, the litter, the stupid feather toys they shred in 5 minutes. Forgive me if I'm a little preoccupied making sure we can afford it all." It was the wrong thing to say. I knew it the second the words left my mouth. Her face went from angry to ice cold. "You think that's all I do? Sit around waiting for you to bring home a paycheck?" She shot back, her voice dangerously low. "I run this entire house, Julian. While you're out playing with your tools, I'm doing everything else. I am not your maid." "I never said you were." "You might as well have. You don't care about anything but your job and that stupid rusty truck in the garage." That hit a nerve. "Don't you talk about my truck?" "See, that's what you care about. That hunk of metal gets more attention than me or the cats. It's pathetic." The fight devolved from there. We dredged up every old argument, every perceived slight. It ended with me sleeping on the couch and her slamming the bedroom door so hard a picture frame fell off the hallway wall. The next 2 days were a frozen hell. Silent treatment. We moved around each other like ghosts, the air thick with resentment. I'd leave for work before she was up. She'd be asleep on the couch when I got home. I hated it. I was just trying to build up the nerve to apologize, to swallow my pride, and just make things right. I figured I'd pick up her favorite takeout on the way home Friday, maybe a bottle of wine. We'd talk it out. We always did. Friday was another grinder of a day. I was exhausted when I finally pulled my Civic into the driveway around 7. I killed the engine, my head throbbing already, rehearsing my apology. As I got out, a weird feeling washed over me. Something was wrong. The air felt empty. I looked at the garage. The door was wide open. And Bessie's spot was empty. My heart hammered against my ribs. My first thought was theft. I sprinted to the garage, my work boots echoing on the concrete. Nothing. Just a dark rectangular oil stain on the floor where she'd sat for the last 5 years. A place so familiar it was burned into my brain. Panic clawed at my throat. I ran into the house through the side door. "Sarah," I yelled, my voice cracking. "Sarah, call the police. The truck's gone. Someone stole the truck." I burst into the living room. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, one of the cats purring in her lap. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look scared. She just looked calm. She slowly looked up from her screen, her expression as blank as a brick wall. A cold, heavy dread pooled in my stomach, far worse than the fear of theft. "Sarah," I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Where's my truck?" She looked up from the cat, her eyes flat and empty. I got rid of it. The words didn't compute. It was like she'd spoken a foreign language. You what? What are you talking about? Did you park it on the street? No, Julian. I sold it. She said it so simply, like she was telling me we were out of milk. Some junkyard gave me $400 for it. $400. For a piece of my family's soul. The breath left my body in a rush, leaving a hollow, ringing void. My vision tunneled until the only thing I could see was her face, a mask of smug satisfaction. The argument over the litter box, my long hours, everything, it all faded into white noise. This wasn't a fight. This was an execution. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. My voice came out low and steady, a tone that scared even me. Get your cat off your lap. She flinched. What? Sterling, I said, pointing at the gray one. He's mine. I paid the adoption fee. Get him off your lap, get your shit, and get out of my house. Your house? She scoffed, her composure cracking. My name is on the... and my money pays the mortgage. You have 1 hour. I turned and walked to the bedroom, my movements stiff and robotic. I grabbed a duffel bag and started throwing clothes into it. My phone started buzzing in my pocket. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. A constant venomous stream. I finally pulled it out. It was a group text with Sarah, her sister, and her mother. Asterisk, Sarah's mom, I cannot believe you would throw my daughter out after everything she's done for you. Asterisk. Asterisk. Sarah's sister, you're a monster, Julian. She sold a piece of junk and you're destroying your lives over it. Asterisk. Then came texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Her friends, probably. Asterisk, abuser. Man-child. You deserved it. Asterisk. They were painting me as the villain for reacting to her catastrophic act of betrayal. They didn't get it. They never would. I blocked every number. I walked back into the living room. Sarah was standing there crying now. The performative, self-pitying tears of someone who'd just realized their bomb had a bigger blast radius than they'd intended. I ignored her, scooped up a bewildered Sterling, and grabbed his carrier from the utility closet. Julian, please, she sobbed. It was just a truck. That was the last thing she ever said to me. I walked out the front door, put Sterling in my Civic, and drove away without looking back. The first call I made was to my buddy Dave, a mechanic who knew Bessie almost as well as I did. My voice was shaking as I told him what happened. He was silent for a moment, then just said, "Where are you?" I was crashing on his couch within the hour. The second call was to the police. I filed a report for a stolen vehicle. The officer on the phone was sympathetic but procedural. So your live-in girlfriend sold the vehicle. Is the title in her name? No, I said, my jaw tight. It's in my name. Solely. My father signed it over to me 10 years ago. And you have the title? Yes. It's in a safe deposit box. There was a pause. Okay, sir. That changes things. That's Grand Theft Auto. The next morning, Dave and I started calling every scrapyard and junkyard within a 100-mile radius. Most gave us the brush off. A couple took my number, but I knew they wouldn't call. The desperation was eating me alive. I pictured Bessie being crushed into a cube of seafoam green metal, my grandpa's legacy flattened and forgotten. The harassment didn't stop. She created new social media profiles to message me. Her family left voicemails alternating between threats and tearful pleas for me to be the bigger man and forgive her. They saw a broken relationship. I saw a felony. It was Dave who found her. On the third day of searching, he called me, his voice electric. I got her, buddy. Miller's Auto Salvage off Route 9. Old man Miller is a hard ass, but I described the truck and he said a pretty girl sold it to him on Friday. Matched Sarah's description. I was in my car in 30 seconds, the police report on the passenger seat. When I got to Miller's, the place was a graveyard of rusting metal. And there, tucked behind a stack of wrecked sedans, was Bessie. Relief washed over me so intensely my knees went weak. But as I got closer, the relief curdled into rage. There was a deep, vicious scratch gouged into the passenger side door, running from the fender to the cab. It was fresh already, showing the faint orange tinge of rust. It was deliberate. The owner, a grizzled man with oil permanently etched into his wrinkles, came out of his shack, wiping his hands on a rag. "Can I help you?" "That's my truck," I said, pointing. It was stolen. He grunted, unimpressed. "Got a title, says otherwise." "Paid $400 cash for it." "Sale is final." "The title is a forgery," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm calling the officer who took my report. His name is Detective Mills. You can either show him the paperwork you have, or he can come down here with a warrant." Miller's eyes narrowed, but he saw I wasn't bluffing. He disappeared into his shack and came back with a greasy piece of paper. The bill of sale. And there it was at the bottom, my name clumsily forged in Sarah's loopy handwriting. The signature looked nothing like mine. Detective Mills arrived 20 minutes later. He took one look at the forged signature on the bill of sale, another at the legitimate title I'd retrieved from the bank, and nodded. "The vehicle is yours, Mr. Hayes. We'll have it towed wherever you'd like." He then looked at Miller. "And you're going to be a witness. We'll be paying a visit to a Miss Sarah Jenkins shortly." Getting Bessie back wasn't a celebration. It was a damage assessment. Dave towed her to his shop. The scratch was bad enough, a deep wound that would require sanding the whole panel down to bare metal and a perfect paint match. But then he called me from under the lift. "Julian, you need to see this." I went to the shop. He pointed up at the undercarriage. One of the brake lines, the one leading to the front passenger side wheel, was cut. Not worn through, not rusted, but clearly and cleanly snipped. A tiny bit of brake fluid was still weeping from the clean edge. If I had somehow gotten the truck back and driven it without checking, my first hard stop would have sent me careening into traffic. She hadn't just sold my truck. She had tried to get me killed. The cops found Sarah at her parents' house. When they presented her with the evidence, the forgery, the testimony from the junkyard owner, she confessed everything. The scratch, the brake line, everything. She was arrested on the spot. The charge was grand theft auto, a Class 1 felony because of the vehicle's value and the malicious damage. The court was swift. She pleaded guilty to avoid a trial, was fined $5,000, and given 3 years of probation. I have Bessie back in my garage now. She's scarred, and the estimates for the bodywork and mechanical repairs are astronomical. Every time I look at that raw metal gash, I feel a fresh stab of cold fury. But she's home. She's safe. I'm exhausted. I'm broke from the initial legal fees and the impending repair bills. But every night I go into the garage, run my hand over her dented fender, and I feel vindicated. The criminal case is over, but I'm not done. My lawyer filed the civil suit yesterday. I'm going to get back every single cent it takes to make her whole again. She didn't just sell a truck. She declared war on my family's history. And it's a war she is going to lose.
Story 8.
My sister Sarah and I used to be an unbreakable team. When she was 19 and terrified, I was the first person she told she was bisexual. I held her while she cried, scared of how her parents would react. I was the one who sat with her when she told them ready to fight her corner. They were great, of course, but it was me she needed that day. For a decade, I was her person. Then she met Gary. The first red flag was our wedding invitation. Sarah and Gary invite you to celebrate their marriage. You. Singular. My boyfriend of 3 years, Mark, wasn't just a casual +1. He was practically family. I called her thinking it was a simple oversight. Oh, she'd said, her voice tight. Gary's family is traditional. It's just easier this way. To keep the peace. Easier for who, Sarah? I asked. Please don't make this a thing, Jack. I didn't. I went alone, watched her marry a man with a stiff smile and a weak handshake, and felt a crack form in the foundation of us. After that, the rules became unspoken but clear. Mark and I were welcome at her new house, but only for brunch on a Saturday or an early dinner on a Tuesday. Never on a Friday night. Never on a weekend when Gary was guaranteed to be home. She'd invent excuses. Gary had a guy's night. He was working late. He wasn't feeling well. We all knew the truth. My relationship was something to be hidden, an inconvenience to her new life. So when she called me last Wednesday, her voice radiating forced cheerfulness, I was already on guard. Hey, little bro, what are you up to this weekend? Not much. Mark and I were thinking of hitting that new brewery downtown. Oh, great, she said, steamrolling right over the mention of his name. Listen, I have a massive favor to ask. Gary and I have this conference we completely forgot about, and our sitter just canceled. Could you possibly watch Diana for us Friday night to Sunday afternoon? Diana was Gary's 6-year-old daughter from his first marriage. A sweet, quiet kid with big, curious eyes. I loved her, but the request felt transactional. A deployment of the brother she kept on a shelf, dusted off only when needed. I don't know, Sarah. Please, Jack, you'd be saving my life. Literally. My boss will kill me if I miss this. And Di loves you. The part of me that still remembered the Unbreakable team won out. Fine. Yeah, okay. I'll do it. Friday evening, Sarah dropped Diana off, giving me a quick, tense hug at the door before practically sprinting back to her car. Mark was making grilled cheese and tomato soup, Diana's favorite. He had her giggling in minutes, balancing a spoon on his nose. For a few hours, everything felt normal. It felt like family. Saturday morning, Mark had to head into the office for a few hours. He came to the door of the living room where I was watching cartoons with Diana. All right, I'm heading out, he said. Be back around 2. He leaned down and gave me a quick, simple kiss. The kind of absent-minded, affectionate gesture we'd shared 1,000 times. Bye, love you. Love you too, I said. He waved at Diana. Bye, Di, be good for your uncle. Bye, Mark, she chirped, her eyes glued to the TV. The moment passed. An hour later, during a commercial break, Diana turned to me, her head cocked. Uncle Jack. Yeah, sweetie. Why did your friend Mark kiss you? My stomach did a nervous little flip. The classic dreaded moment. The Times question asterisk. A dozen scenarios flashed through my mind, most of them ending in a mushroom cloud originating from Gary's head. But then I looked at her face. There was no judgment, no confusion. Just simple 6-year-old curiosity. She wasn't asking for a political statement, she was just asking a question. I took a breath. Well, sometimes a boy likes a boy the same way a man and a woman like each other. Like how your daddy likes Sarah. She processed that for a second, her brow furrowed. Then she nodded, a slow, solemn bob of her head. Okay. And that was it. She turned back to the TV, suddenly fascinated by a yogurt commercial. The conversation was over. The bomb had not gone off. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. It was fine. Everything was fine. On Sunday, just after lunch, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Gary. Asterisk, asterisk. What the fuck did you say to my daughter? Asterisk, asterisk. My blood ran cold. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Before I could even formulate a reply, my phone started ringing. Asterisk, Gary, asterisk. I answered, my heart pounding against my ribs. Hello. Don't you hello me, you sick bastard, he screamed, his voice distorted with rage. What the hell did you do? Diana just asked me if men can marry men. What kind of filth are you pushing on my kid? Gary, calm down, I said, my voice shaking. She asked a simple question. I gave her a simple age-appropriate answer. Age-appropriate. AGE appropriate. You don't get to decide what's appropriate for my daughter. You deliberately corrupted her. You pushed your sick lifestyle on her. It's not a lifestyle, it's who I am. I shot back my own anger, flaring. She saw Mark kiss me goodbye. What was I supposed to do? Lie to her? Yes. You should have said he was your cousin or your weird friend. I don't give a shit. Anything but the truth. There was a muffled sound, and then Sarah's voice was on the line. It was colder than Gary's. Jack, what were you thinking? She hissed. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Sarah, you can't be serious. She asked a question. You should have just changed the subject. You know how Gary is about this. You deliberately provoked him. I provoked him by existing in my own home, by getting a goodbye kiss from my partner. My God, Sarah, listen to yourself. This isn't about you, Jack. This is about Diana, she shrieked. Gary is freaking out. He's talking about taking her to a psychologist to see what kind of damage you've done. I just laughed. A hollow, broken sound. Damage. You think I times damage, times her, by telling her that gay people exist. You of all people. You made a mistake, Jack, she said, her voice flat and final. And now we have to clean it up. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen staring at my phone, my whole body trembling with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. My sister. The one I'd protected. The one I'd stood up for. She'd just thrown me under the bus to appease her bigoted husband. An hour later, an email notification pinged. The subject line was **** invoice for psychological assessment. ***. It was from Gary. The body of the email was short, brutal, and utterly insane. He had already booked an appointment with a child therapist for the following week to assess the emotional and psychological damage caused by your inappropriate disclosure. He accused me of grooming and demanded I pay the full cost of the therapy sessions, attaching a fee schedule from the clinic. The last sentence made the air leave my lungs. Asterisk. If you refuse to take financial responsibility for the harm you've caused, our lawyer will be in touch. Asterisk. I couldn't breathe. A lawsuit. He was threatening me with a lawsuit. For answering a child's question honestly. Stunned, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone, I called the only person I could think of. Dad, I choked out, my voice cracking. Jack, what's wrong? You sound terrible. I'm forwarding you an email, I stammered. From Gary. You need to see it. He's threatening to sue me. My dad, a lawyer for 35 years, was silent as I explained everything. The kiss, Diana's question, the phone call, the accusations. I could practically feel his fury radiating through the phone. He said what my dad finally said, his voice dangerously low. He's claiming you damaged Diana. Send me that email, right now. I forwarded it. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for a full minute. I could hear the faint sound of my mom in the background asking what was going on. Then my dad came back on the line and his voice was like ice and iron. Linda, get your coat. We're going to Sarah's. He spoke back into the phone, his tone leaving no room for argument. Jack. Stay where you are. Don't call her. Don't answer if they call you. Your mother and I are on our way into the city. We're handling this. The call ended. I just stood there, phone in hand, the silence of my apartment roaring in my ears. I felt like I'd been in a car crash. Everything was distant, hazy, and my body was thrumming with an adrenaline I didn't know what to do with. Mark found me like that an hour later when he got home from work, just staring at the kitchen wall. He took one look at my face, dropped his bag, and had his arms around me. Jack, what happened? I couldn't form words. I just held him, burying my face in his shoulder, and finally let out the shuddering breath I'd been holding since Gary's text. I told him everything. Every vile word, every accusation, the email, the threat of a lawsuit. He listened, his expression hardening from concern to a quiet, controlled fury. That son of a bitch, he said, his voice low. And Sarah just let him. I just nodded the shame and heard of it fresh all over again. My phone rang, startling us both. It was my dad. I put it on speaker, my hand trembling so badly Mark had to steady it for me. Jack Dad's voice was tense. We're here, at Sarah's. I'm putting you on speaker. Your mother thinks you have a right to hear this. Don't say a word unless I ask you to understand. Okay, I whispered. The soundscape of the call changed. I could hear muffled voices, a door closing. Sarah, my dad said, his voice devoid of warmth. Where's your husband? Dad, what are you doing here? This is not a good time. Sarah's voice was strained, panicked. It's about to get a hell of a lot worse. Get Gary. There was a shuffle of feet, and then Gary's smug voice filled the speaker. Well, look what the cat dragged in. Come to apologize on behalf of your deviant son. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I heard my mom gasp. You will address my son as Jack, my dad said, his voice like granite. I reviewed your email. Let me be clear. There will be no psychological assessment. There will be no invoice, and there will certainly be no lawsuit. If you so much as type my son's name in an email again, I will personally see to it that my firm buries you in so much litigation you'll be paying off the debt in your next life. Are we clear? You can't threaten me in my own home, Gary sputtered. That wasn't a threat, Dad replied coldly. That was the itinerary for your future. Now we're going to talk about the accusation you made. You believe Jack damaged your daughter. He exposed her to his lifestyle. He confused her. He's a groomer. The word hung in the air, ugly and venomous. Mark's hand tightened on my shoulder. My son answered a 6-year-old's question with a simple, honest sentence. My dad's voice was rising now, the lawyerly calm cracking to reveal the enraged father beneath. He told her, love is love. The only person who seems damaged by that concept is you, Gary. The only person pushing filth and corruption here is the man who would teach a child that some people's families are wrong, that her uncle is something to be ashamed of. I won't have her growing up thinking that's normal, Gary yelled. Thinking what's normal, that her uncle is happy, that he's in a loving relationship. Dad's voice was a roar now. You know, I worried when Sarah married you. I saw the way you looked at Jack and Mark. I saw the polite bigotry you tried to hide. But I kept my mouth shut for my daughter's sake. He paused, and the silence was heavy, dangerous. But this accusing my son of being a predator for existing, threatening him after he did you a favor? No. We're done. Dad, please, Sarah begged. Let's all just calm down. I am perfectly calm, Sarah, my father said. Gary, smelling what he thought was a victory, pushed his luck. He let out a condescending scoff. Look, I'm sorry you didn't raise him right, but don't worry. I won't make the same mistakes with Diana that you made with him. The line went dead quiet. It was the quiet of a fuse burning down to the dynamite. For a full 5 seconds, no one spoke. I felt the blood drain from my face. When my dad's voice came back, it was a whisper of pure ice. Get out of my daughter's house. What? Gary laughed. This is my time's house. Not while I'm in it, my father snapped. You are no longer a part of this family. You are not welcome at our home for holidays. You will not speak to me or my wife or my son ever again. You are a stranger to us. Now get out of my sight before I do something I don't regret. Sarah Gary shrieked his voice, pitching high with panic and disbelief. Are you going to let him talk to me like this? And this was it. The moment. The choice she had to make. My sister. My unbreakable team. I held my breath. Jack, she screamed, and her voice was suddenly directed at the phone at me. It was raw, hysterical, and full of a hatred I had never heard before. Are you happy now? Are you happy you've done this? You and your fucking mistake are destroying my marriage. You're ruining my life. The phone clicked. The line went dead. I dropped my phone onto the counter. The sound it made was small and pathetic. Ruining her life. My mistake. My existence was a mistake. That was inconveniencing her marriage to a monster. I sank onto a kitchen stool, the strength gone from my legs. Mark knelt in front of me, his hands on my knees. Jack. Breathe. Hey, look at me. Breathe. I didn't know how long we stayed like that. 10 minutes? An hour? Then there was a soft knock at our apartment door. Mark opened it to reveal my parents. My mom's eyes were red-rimmed, her face pale. My dad just looked old. The fury had drained out of him, leaving a deep, hollowed-out sadness. Mom came straight to me, wrapping her arms around me so tightly it hurt. She didn't say anything. She just held me, stroking my hair like she did when I was a kid. Dad stood in the doorway, his hands shoved in his pockets. She chose him, he said, his voice rough. I told her, he goes or we go. She told us to leave. He finally looked at me, his eyes filled with a grief that mirrored my own. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I managed to choke out. We raised her to be kind, my mom whispered, her voice thick with tears. To be brave. I don't know who that woman is. We stood there for a long time, a new smaller family unit forged in the wreckage. My phone buzzed on the counter. We all looked at it. A text from Sarah. Asterisk, asterisk, I hope you're satisfied. Gary's gone to his brother's. You've broken our family. Don't ever contact me again. Asterisk, asterisk. I didn't feel rage anymore. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt empty. The unbreakable team was broken. The person I'd protected had fed me to the wolves to save herself. My father's actions, his righteous fury, hadn't been revenge. It had been a clarification. He hadn't banished Gary. He'd just revealed the walls that were already there, forcing Sarah to finally show us which side she was on. She'd made her choice. And now I had to live with it.
Story 9.
Her name was Kate. We met when I was 18, a senior about to graduate, and she was 14, a freshman just starting to figure out the world. Looking back, the age gap should have been the first red flag. But when you're 18, you're an idiot. You think you know everything, and a 4-year difference feels like nothing. I just saw this girl with a fire in her eyes, a laugh that could fill a stadium, and I was hooked. The second red flag came a few months in. I was talking to a friend of mine, Sarah, after school. Just laughing about a stupid teacher. Kate saw us from across the parking lot. She didn't say a word, just got in my beat-up Civic and stared out the window the entire ride home. The silence was heavier than any argument. When we got to her house, she finally turned to me. Who was that? Sarah, you know Sarah, we have chem together. Don't lie to me, Ryan. I saw the way you were looking at her. Her voice was dangerously quiet. You can't have female friends. Not if you're with me. It's them or me. I should have gotten out of the car and walked away. I should have told her that was insane. Instead, I heard the twisted logic of a teenage boy. Asterisk. She loves me so much she can't stand the thought of anyone else getting close. Asterisk. So I agreed. I cut people out. It was the first of many pieces of myself I'd sand down to make us fit together. For 15 years, I kept sanding. We got married at 22. We were kids playing house, but we were serious about it. We had our first daughter, Lily, 2 years later. Then came Maya. My world became those two little girls and Kate. I worked a steady IT job, paid the mortgage, and coached Lily's soccer team. I loved it. I'm an introvert at heart. My perfect night was ordering a pizza, putting the girls to bed, and collapsing on the couch with Kate to watch a movie. Kate, however, was not built for that life. She craved adventure, noise, crowds. While I was recharging my batteries at home, hers were draining. There's a new band playing downtown, she'd say on a Friday night, already scrolling through tickets on her phone. I'm beat Kate. Long week, I'd reply from the couch, smelling of Johnson's baby shampoo after bathing the girls. You're always beat, Ryan. Don't you ever want to times anything. The accusation in her voice was a sharp little knife. It made me feel boring. Old. Inadequate. So I'd push myself. We'd hire a sitter, I'd put on a clean shirt, and we'd go. I'd stand in a loud, sweaty bar nursing a beer and trying to look like I was having fun, while she danced and laughed with her friends completely in her element. She was a firefly, and I was the jar she felt trapped in. We weren't growing together anymore. We were just occupying the same space. The intimacy died a slow, quiet death. It wasn't a big fight or a dramatic event. It was just erosion. 1,000 tiny moments of disconnection. A hand not taken. A kiss on the cheek instead of the lips. We became business partners in the enterprise of raising our children. We discussed schedules, groceries, and parent-teacher conferences. We slept in the same bed, a 6-inch DMZ between us two strangers who knew each other's social security numbers by heart. I tried. God, I tried. Let's get a sitter next Saturday, I suggested one night while we were washing dishes. Just us. We could go to that Italian place we used to love. She didn't even look up from the pan she was scrubbing. We can't afford that right now. And Maya has that birthday party on Sunday. I'll be too tired. Every attempt was met with a practical, sensible excuse that made me feel stupid for even asking. Eventually, I stopped asking. I told myself it was just a phase. This is what marriage is like with young kids, right? You grind it out, you survive, and you find each other again on the other side. I still loved her. I still saw the 14-year-old girl with the fiery eyes underneath the tired, distant woman standing next to me. I just had to wait for her to come back. The change started with her phone. It was a gradual thing. First, it was just always in her hand. Then it was always angled away from me. Then it was always face down on the counter. She'd be texting a small secret smile on her face I hadn't seen directed at me in years. Who are you talking to? I'd ask, trying to sound casual. Just Ashley from work. You don't know her. The girls' nights became more frequent. She started going to the gym every evening. She bought new clothes, started doing her hair differently. Part of me was happy for her. She seemed less restless, more alive. The other part, the part I refused to listen to, felt a cold dread coiling in my gut. This energy wasn't for me. One Friday, she went out with the girls. She said they were going for dinner and a movie. She kissed me on the cheek, a dry, passionless peck, and was out the door. I put the kids to bed, cleaned the kitchen, and settled onto the couch, flipping through channels. 1:00 p.m. I sent a text. Asterisk. Hey, hope you're having fun. Love you. Asterisk. Read. No reply. 1:30 p.m. I called. Straight to voicemail. The dread in my stomach tightened. Midnight. I called again. Voicemail. She stumbled in at 2:30 a.m. She was drunk, giggling as she fumbled with her keys. I was sitting on the couch in the dark, my heart pounding a sick, heavy rhythm against my ribs. "Where were you, Kate?" She jumped, startled. "Jesus, Ryan, you scared me. I told you I was out with the girls." She waved a dismissive hand, avoiding my eyes as she kicked off her shoes. I called. "You didn't answer." "Oh, my phone must have died." She shrugged, but she didn't check it. She just walked past me toward the bedroom. The scent of her perfume washed over me, but it was mixed with something else. Another scent. One I didn't recognize. It was floral and sweet, and it wasn't mine. The next few weeks were a blur of fake smiles and quiet suspicion. I was a ghost in my own house, watching my wife live a life I wasn't part of. She was happier than I'd seen her in years, and it was killing me. I felt like I was going crazy, seeing shadows where there was nothing. I wanted to be wrong. I prayed I was just being jealous and insecure like she'd always accused me of being. Tonight, she was exhausted. She came home from the gym, ate a small salad for dinner while scrolling through her phone, and then collapsed onto the couch. She was asleep in minutes. The TV droned on, casting a flickering blue light across her face. Her phone lay on the coffee table beside a half-empty glass of water. Face up. For a long time, I just stared at it. Asterisk. Don't do it, Ryan. Just let it go. You're being paranoid. Asterisk. But I couldn't. It was a magnetic pull I was too weak to resist. I tiptoed over my bare feet, silent on the hardwood floor. My hand trembled as I reached for it. Then before my fingers could touch the screen, it lit up. The screen glowed, illuminating her sleeping face. A text message banner appeared at the top. It wasn't from Ashley. The name was Jess. And beneath the name, the preview of the message made the air leave my lungs in a single silent gasp. Asterisk. Had so much fun tonight. Can't stop thinking about kissing you. Asterisk. My whole body went cold, then hot. The words on the screen didn't compute. They were from a different movie, a different life. I took a screenshot, my thumb shaking so badly I had to do it twice, and emailed it to myself. Then I placed the phone back on the table exactly as it was. I walked into our bedroom and flicked on the light. Kate. Wake up. She groaned, rolling over. Ryan, what is it? What time is it? Who's Jess? Her eyes opened, but they were groggy, confused. What are you talking about? It's the middle of the night. Jess, I repeated, my voice flat and dead. The one who can't stop thinking about kissing you. The color drained from her face. She sat bolt upright, pulling the comforter up to her chin. You went through my phone. The accusation was immediate. The anger. Not shame, not guilt. Pure, indignant rage. It was on the table. Face up. The message just popped up. I held up my own phone, showing her the screenshot. So who is she? She stared at the image, her jaw tight. For a second, I thought she'd keep lying. But she just slumped. It's not what you think. Isn't it? Have you been sleeping with her? Silence. The silence that was heavier than any argument. The same silence from that day in my car 15 years ago. It was her tell. God, Kate, I whispered. The floor felt like it was tilting. How long? A few months. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my head in my hands. We have kids. We have a life. A 15-year life. I looked at her, my one last desperate plea. End it. Right now. Tell me you'll end it, and we can go to counseling. We can try to fix this. For Lily and Maya, I'll forgive you. Just end it. She just looked at me, her expression a mixture of pity and something else. Resolve. I can't, Ryan. You can't or you won't. I have feelings for her, she said, her voice barely audible. I don't know what they are yet, but I can't just turn them off. That was it. The finality of it hit me like a physical blow. She wasn't choosing me. She wasn't even considering it. In that moment, the woman I had loved since I was a boy evaporated, replaced by a stranger wearing her face. Get out, I said, my voice shaking. What, Ryan? It's my house. Get out, I roared, standing up so fast the motion surprised us both. Pack a bag and go stay with Jess. I don't want you under this roof tonight. The next 3 months were a masterclass in psychological warfare. She moved out, but she never really left. My phone became a weapon she used against me. One day, it would be a string of venomous texts blaming me for her unhappiness. Asterisk, you were never present, you were boring, you pushed me away times. The next it would be a tearful late-night phone call. I miss you, she'd sob into the phone. I made a terrible mistake. I think I still love you, Ryan. I miss our family. The first time she said it, a sliver of hope, ugly and stupid, wormed its way into my chest. Are you still seeing her, Kate? A pause. It's complicated. It wasn't complicated. It was a game. My therapist called it cake eating. She wanted me on the hook as her safety net while she explored her new life. She wanted my emotional support while sleeping with the woman who destroyed our family. I'd hang up shaking with rage and heartbreak and stare at the empty space in our bed. I missed the girls so much it was a constant physical ache in my chest. On the nights I had them, I'd just hold them on the couch, soaking in their smell, trying not to let them see me cry. On the nights I didn't, the silence of the house was deafening. The divorce proceedings were her grand finale. She fought me on everything, using the kids as leverage. She'd agree to a custody schedule, then change her mind. She'd cry to her lawyer about how I was abandoning her, conveniently leaving out the part about her ongoing affair. The showdown happened in a sterile conference room. My lawyer, a tired-looking man named Dave, slid a final offer across the table. She'll sign today, he said, if you agree to give her an extra 20% of the equity from the house sale. I looked at the numbers. It was a lot of money. It was my future, my down payment on a new life. It was fundamentally unfair. Kate sat across from me, flanked by her own attorney, looking tearful and victimized. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was still seeing Jess. I knew it. She was still trying to have it all. I thought about another 6 months of this. Another 6 months of her calls, her manipulation, her poison seeping into my life. I thought about my freedom. Fine, I said, the word tasting like ash. Do it. I just want it over. I signed the papers without reading them again. I slid them across the table, stood up, and walked out without looking back. It's been almost a year since D-Day, the day of the discovery. I live in a small rental house now, 20 minutes from the old one. It has a big backyard. Lily and Maya love it. They have their own rooms decorated with fairy lights and posters of pop stars I don't recognize. Living alone was brutal at first. But in the silence, I started hearing myself again. I realized the constant anxiety I'd felt for years wasn't a flaw in my personality. It was a reaction to living with her. The walking on eggshells, the constant need to manage her moods, the feeling of never being good enough that wasn't marriage. It was abuse. My therapist calls her a narcissist, and the more I read, the more the last 15 years click into a horrifyingly clear picture. We don't talk anymore. It's one of the boundaries I set. All communication is done through a co-parenting app. It's a log of pickups, drop-offs, and doctor's appointments. No emotion, no drama, just logistics. It's amazing how much peace a little no contact can bring. Last month, I went to the shelter and adopted a cat. A little black cat with green eyes. I named him Ash. He sleeps on my feet and purrs so loudly it vibrates through the bed. It's the first time in a year my bed hasn't felt empty. Tonight, the girls are with me. We made pizza from scratch, getting flour all over the kitchen, and now we're piled on the couch watching a movie. Lily is tucked under one arm, Maya's head is in my lap, and Ash is purring on my chest. The house is filled with the sound of their laughter. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. It's a notification from the parenting app. Asterisk, Kate, I will be 15 minutes late for pickup tomorrow. Asterisk. I type back a quick times, okay. Asterisk. No anger. No anxiety. Nothing. It's just information. I look around my little living room at my daughters, at this quiet, stable life I've built from the wreckage. I lost the wife I thought I knew, the house we built together, and a chunk of my retirement savings. But I'm not a sanded down, inadequate version of myself anymore. I'm just me. I'm a dad. I'm a guy with a cat. I'm a man who can breathe again. Kate didn't just cheat on me. In a twisted way, she set me free. And leaving her wasn't losing my life. It was how I finally got it back.
Story Teen.
The end of a 5-year relationship shouldn't be a quiet affair. It should be a house fire. A screaming, shattering, plate-throwing apocalypse. But Clara and I didn't explode. We leaked. A slow, toxic drip of resentment that had been corroding our foundation for the better part of a year. My depression was a heavy anchor, and she was tired of trying to tread water for both of us. The day she packed her bags, she said we were drowning. She wasn't wrong. The breakup was followed by a silence so profound it had its own texture. For 2 months, I didn't hear from her. Not a text, not a call, not a hope. You're doing okay. I threw myself into the gym until my muscles screamed louder than the thoughts in my head. I buried myself in work chasing promotions I didn't even want. I went through the motions of healing, telling myself the silence was a gift, a clean break. Then one Tuesday night, my phone buzzed. Her name. My stomach dropped through the floor. Asterisk, hey. In your neighborhood next week. Drinks asterisk. My thumbs hovered over the screen. Every self-help guru and well-meaning friend would have screamed no, but a part of me, the part that still remembered how she laughed, needed to see her. Needed to prove to myself I could. Asterisk. Yeah, sure. The old spot asterisk. Walking into the alibi felt like walking into a ghost story I'd written. There she was in our booth, looking exactly the same and yet completely different, like a photograph I'd stared at for too long. Hey Russ, she said, her smile a little hesitant. Clara. The first 10 minutes were excruciating. We did the breakup tango, polite questions about work, family, the weather. Then the whiskey hit and the armor started to crack. We talked about that disastrous camping trip in Big Sur. We laughed about the time my dog ate her expensive leather shoes. We were talking about the good old days like they belonged to someone else, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. It was just history. A bittersweet, nostalgic warmth settled between us. This wasn't a reunion. It was a wake. A proper, respectful goodbye we never gave ourselves. When the bar was closing, we stood outside on the cold pavement. The air crackled. The 5 years we'd spent learning each other's bodies screamed at us to close the distance. She looked up at me, her eyes glossy from the whiskey and the memories. She leaned in just slightly. It would have been so easy. One kiss. One night of falling back into a familiar rhythm just to quiet the loneliness. But I saw the whole movie play out in my head, the morning after regret, the confusion, the reopening of a wound I'd worked so hard to stitch shut. For the first time in a long time, I chose myself. I took a half step back, just enough to break the spell. I should go, I said, my voice softer than I wanted. A flicker of disappointment crossed her face, but it was replaced by something else. Understanding. Yeah, she whispered. Okay. I walked away without looking back. My chest felt tight, but it wasn't from pain. It was pride. I walked away clean, head high. I had faced the ghost and hadn't flinched. The relationship was over, and I was finally okay with that. I was healing. That one closure drink turned into a monthly ritual, a progress report on our successful separation. It felt surprisingly healthy. We'd meet, talk for a couple of hours, and go our separate ways. There were no more charged moments, no lingering touches. We were just two people who used to know each other intimately, now navigating the strange terrain of post-relationship friendship. I saw it as the final boss battle of my healing journey, and I was winning. 7 months after the breakup, we were at a new place, some trendy cocktail lounge with dim lighting. The conversation was easy flowing from my new project at work to a terrible date she'd been on. God, it's just exhausting, she said, swirling the ice in her bourbon. I don't have the energy for small talk anymore. Tell me about it, I laughed. I went out with a girl who thought astrology was a hard science. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. You know, it's weird. I actually had something pretty serious for a minute. Right after we broke up, the words landed like a soft punch. I wasn't jealous, just surprised. Oh yeah, you never mentioned that. It wasn't worth mentioning, she said with a shrug. Classic rebound. Burned hot and fast. It was over before it really began. How fast, I asked, sipping my drink. It ended maybe a month after, after I moved out. My brain, the traitorous accountant, started doing the math. A serious relationship that started and ended within a month of our 5-year implosion. The timeline felt compressed. Impossible even. You don't just stumble into a serious relationship a week after ending things. Still, I didn't want to pry. It wasn't my business. But the curiosity was a splinter under my thumbnail. I tried to make it a joke. Damn, girl. You move fast. Where'd you even meet him? A drive-through? She laughed, but it was brittle. Something like that. He was my mechanic. Your mechanic? The guy with the old shop off Miller? Yeah. Mike? Mike. I remembered Mike. The guy she'd started using for her car a few months before we broke up. She'd raved about how honest he was, how he'd fixed her transmission for a steal. A weird disconnected memory surfaced her, talking about marriage, pushing for it hard in those final months. It had felt so sudden, so out of character. The pieces weren't fitting together. They were jamming, grinding against each other. I kept my voice light a feather, trying to lift a boulder. So when did you guys start seeing each other? Claire looked down into her glass, her reflection staring back at her. The noise of the bar faded into a dull hum. She picked at the label on her bottle of water, peeling it away in a thin, ragged strip. Clara. She took a shaky breath and finally met my eyes. She opened her mouth to answer. And then she stopped. Her jaw trembled. The easy confidence she'd worn all night crumbled, revealing something raw and terrified underneath. The look on her face? That was the beginning of the real end. It wasn't right after she finally whispered the words barely audible over the clink of glasses from the bar. It was before. My blood went cold. The whiskey in my stomach turned to ice. Before what? Her eyes glistening with unshed tears met mine. The curated poise she'd maintained for 7 months was gone, replaced by the face of a stranger confessing to a crime. Before I moved out, Russ. The last 4 months. 4 months. The number echoed in the sudden silent cavern of my mind. It wasn't a number. It was a verdict. It was a demolition order for the entire history I'd just been nostalgically visiting. The final difficult year of our relationship wasn't a slow leak of resentment. It was a cover-up. Every memory from that period instantly respooled, now playing in a sickening new light. Her late nights at the office. The sudden uncharacteristic secrecy with her phone. The way she'd flinch sometimes when I touched her. I had chalked it all up to my depression, to the chasm growing between us. I had taken the blame. I had carried the weight of our failure, believing it was mine to carry. And the marriage talk. Jesus Christ. The memory hit me like a physical blow. Her sudden, desperate pressure to get engaged. It had come out of nowhere, an ultimatum wrapped in a declaration of love. I'd seen it as a last-ditch effort to save us something I wasn't emotionally ready for. Now I saw it for what it was. A loyalty test. She wasn't asking me to commit to a future with her. She was asking me to give her a reason to stop sleeping with her mechanic. She was testing my lock while the burglar was already in the house. All the pride I'd felt for my healing, for my maturity, for walking away clean that first night outside. The alibi, it all curdled into shame. I hadn't been navigating a bittersweet ending. I'd been the clueless, sad sack husband in a bad soap opera. The last one to know. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor loud enough to turn a few heads. "Russ, please," she begged, her hand reaching for mine across the table. I pulled my arm back like her touch was fire. "Don't," I said, my voice flat, dead. "Don't you dare." I threw a 50 on the table and walked out, leaving her there with her confession hanging in the air. I didn't look back. There was nothing left to see. The ghost I thought I'd made peace with was a monster, and it had just shown me its real face. The days that followed were a blur of white-hot rage. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. The gym was useless. Every rep was her face. Every drop of sweat was pure poison. My clean, respectable grief was gone, replaced by a filthy, feral need for vengeance. The hope I didn't even know I was still carrying some tiny dormant ember that maybe someday we might have been okay was annihilated. I was pacing my apartment like a caged animal when another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. It was a memory from one of her late nights, maybe 2 months before the end. She'd come home smelling of grease and cheap beer, not perfume and office coffee. She'd been effusive talking about how she was helping Mike Time's honest, hardworking Mike Times with a legal issue. "His landlord is trying to screw him on his new commercial lease," she'd said, tossing her briefcase on the couch. "It's a simple contract review. I'm just doing him a favor pro bono." At the time, I thought it was a kind gesture. Now the words echoed with sinister significance. Asterisk. She took him on as a client. Asterisk. While she was sleeping with him. While she was still living with me. Clara was a lawyer. A damned good one. She lived and breathed the code of professional conduct. And I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that sleeping with a current client was not just frowned upon. It was a cannonball through the wall of ethics. A career-ending, reputation-shattering violation. My fingers flew across my keyboard. Asterisk. State. Bar Association Rules of Professional Conduct. Asterisk. It took me less than 5 minutes to find it. Rule 1.8J. A lawyer shall not have sexual relations with a client unless a consensual sexual relationship existed between them when the client-lawyer relationship commenced. Their relationship had commenced when he was just her mechanic. The client-lawyer part came after. I had her. The thought was exhilarating. It was a hit of the purest dopamine I'd felt in a year. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. It was perfect. It wasn't smashing his windows or slashing her tires. It was a quiet, professional, irrefutable act of consequence. One anonymous complaint to the state bar. An investigation would be launched. Her firm would find out. Her colleagues, her mentors, her family, everyone would know. They would know what she did. Not just that she cheated, but that she was reckless, unethical, and willing to risk the career she'd sacrificed everything for on a cheap affair. I pulled up the online complaint form. My hands trembled as I hovered the cursor over the first field. "You can't do this, man." My sister Sarah was sitting on my couch, her face a mask of concern. I'd made the mistake of telling her everything, expecting a co-conspirator, a rally of support. I got an intervention instead. "Why not?" I shot back, my voice raw. "She torpedoed my life. She gets to walk away clean while I'm still picking shrapnel out of my walls. No. There have to be consequences." "Of course there should be," she said gently. "But this, Russ, this isn't a consequence. This is an annihilation. You're talking about trying to ruin her career, her entire life, because she hurt you." "She didn't just hurt me, Sarah. She lied to me for months. She made me believe I was the reason we failed. This is about the truth. Is it she challenged her eyes locking onto mine? Or is it about making her feel as much pain as you do? Because that's a bottomless pit, honey. You pour all your energy into this, into hating her, and a year from now she might be disbarred and you'll still be right here? Alone. And just as broken. This won't heal you. It will just keep you tethered to her." Her words hung in the air, heavy and true. I wanted to argue, to scream that she didn't understand the depth of the betrayal, but I couldn't. A part of me knew she was right. I am sitting here now staring at the screen. The complaint form is still open in one tab. Her LinkedIn profile is open in another. I see her smiling, professional headshot, the list of accolades and publications, the entire life she built. With one click, I can set a fire to all of it. A righteous fire, my anger screams. A cruel and empty one, my sister's voice whispers. Vengeance is a clean, simple, satisfying answer. But letting go, that requires a strength I'm not sure I have. The cursor blinks on the screen, a steady, rhythmic pulse. A choice. Do I push the button and watch her world burn, or do I find the courage to close the laptop and walk away from the wreckage for good? Story 11. My phone buzzed against the cracked laminate of my nightstand. I let it vibrate a second time before rolling over to look. It was my mother. Asterisk, asterisk, mom, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. "Hi, Leo. Your father and I would love to take you to dinner on Saturday. Just the three of us. We have a lot to talk about. A real heart-to-heart. Asterisk." I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. A heart-to-heart. We hadn't had one of those in 20 years. Unless you counted the screaming match that ended with my duffel bag hitting the front lawn 2 years ago. For the last 6 months, they'd been trying. A text on my birthday. A stilted phone call on Thanksgiving where Dad mostly talked about the stock market. Apologies had been muttered, vague and weightless things, like we could have handled things better. I never knew how to respond, so I'd just say, "It's fine." It was easier than saying, "You broke something and I don't know how to fix it." My apartment was a shoebox over a laundromat that always smelled like burnt fabric softener. I worked 40 hours a week, stocking shelves at a grocery store, and took online classes when I could afford them. I was tired. Deep in my bones, tired. And a small, stupid part of me, the part that still remembered being a kid who thought his dad was a hero, whispered that maybe this was it. Maybe this dinner was the real apology. The one that mattered. Asterisk, asterisk, me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What time asterisk? The reply was instant. Asterisk, asterisk, mom, asterisk, 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 7 p.m. The Oak Room at the Atherton Hotel. Your father is handling the reservation. Wear something nice, asterisk. Something nice. I owned one collared shirt that wasn't part of a work uniform. I guess that would have to do. Saturday came faster than I expected. I ironed the shirt, dug out a pair of dark jeans that were only slightly faded, and took the bus downtown. The Atherton Hotel wasn't just nice. It was the kind of place where the valets don't even look at you if your car is more than 3 years old. I walked past them and through the revolving glass doors, feeling like an imposter. The lobby was marble in hushed tones, but as I got closer to the oak room, a wall of sound hit me. It wasn't the quiet clinking of cutlery I'd expected. It was a roar. 100 voices shouting over each other, punctuated by bursts of deep, booming laughter. I pushed open one of the heavy oak doors and froze. It wasn't a table for 3. It was a ballroom. A sea of men in their late 40s, all wearing navy blue blazers and identical red ties, slapped each other on the back and bellowed names across the room. A massive banner hung over the bar, strung up between 2 potted ferns. In huge gold letters it read, Omega Delta Phi. 25 years of brotherhood. This wasn't a reconciliation dinner. It was a frat party for middle-aged men. My blood went cold. I felt the familiar sinking feeling of being an afterthought, a piece of furniture they'd forgotten about until they needed it. I started to back out, to just turn around and melt back into the night, but a hand clamped down on my shoulder. Leo? You made it. My father. His smile was wide and brilliant, but it didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were scanning the room, already looking for his next audience. He pulled me into a one-armed hug that was more of a hostage situation, his hand gripping my bicep like a vice. Dad, what is this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper over the din. He steered me away from the door into a small alcove near the coat check. His smile vanished the second we were out of the main line of sight. The friendly mask dropped, replaced by the hard, impatient man I knew. It's my reunion, he said, straightening his tie. I told your mother to invite you. It's important. You said it was a family dinner. To talk. He waved a dismissive hand. We can talk later. Tonight is about reconnecting. These men, Leo, these are my brothers. I've known them longer than I've known you. Their opinions matter. He leaned in his voice, dropping to a low, urgent command. You're my son. You're in your second year of business school at the university, and you're doing great. You understand. I stared at him. I wasn't in business school. I was a part-time community college student stocking produce. Dad. Don't he cut me off, his eyes like steel. Do not embarrass me tonight. You smile, you shake hands, and you play the part. We are a happy, successful family. Got it. I didn't answer. I just felt a deep, hollow ache spread through my chest. I wasn't a son he wanted to reconcile with. I was a prop. A shiny new accessory to show off to his friends, proof that Richard Marlowe had it all, including the perfect family. He didn't wait for a response. He clapped me on the shoulder again, the plastic smile snapping back into place as he turned to face the room. Good. Now come on, let me introduce you to some people. For the next hour, I was a ghost. He paraded me around the room, his hand a permanent fixture on the back of my neck, steering me from one conversation to another. Bill, you remember my son Leo? Dave, this is my boy, headed for Wall Street, this one. I'd shake a hand, nod, and force a smile that felt like cracking glass. They'd look at me, but they'd see him. They saw his legacy, his success, his perfect son. They didn't see the kid who learned to cook for himself at 12 because no one else was home. They didn't see the 18-year-old stuffing his life into a backpack on the front porch. They saw the lie and they loved it. My mother floated on the periphery, laughing with the other wives, occasionally glancing over at me with a look of strained, pleading encouragement. Asterisk. Just get through this times, her eyes seemed to say. Asterisk. Don't make a scene. Asterisk. Eventually, my father got pulled into a story about some legendary prank from '98, and his grip on my neck finally loosened. I I slipped away, making a beeline for the bar to get a glass of water, anything to wash the taste of hypocrisy out of my mouth. As I stood there trying to catch my breath, a group of people my age drifted over. They were clean-cut, confident, draped in casual but expensive clothes. The children of the Omega Deltas. "You're Richard Marlowe's kid, right?" a guy with a perfect jawline asked. "Leo," I said. "Cool. I'm Josh." "My dad's Tom," he said, gesturing to a loud man chugging a beer across the room. "This is Amber and Kevin." We exchanged limp hellos. They started chatting about summer internships at their dad's firms, ski trips to Aspen, and the new cars their parents had bought them. I just stood there, a visitor from another planet. Amber, a blonde girl with kind eyes, seemed to notice my silence. She turned to me, offering a genuine smile, trying to pull me into the conversation. "Our parents are all trying to one-up each other," she said with a light laugh. "They went all out for our 18th birthdays. My dad got me a BMW. Josh's dad paid for a trip to Europe." She looked at me, her expression open and curious. "What about you? What'd your parents get you for your 18th? The question hung in the air, a perfectly innocent landmine. I saw my father across the room laughing with his hand on some guy's shoulder, the picture of success. Asterisk, "You're in business school. You're doing great. Don't embarrass me." Asterisk, his words echoed in my head. This was my chance to be the son he wanted just for a night. I could lie. I could make something up. A used car. A trust fund. Something plausible, something that would keep the gears of this grand illusion turning smoothly. I saw my mother watching our little group, a tight, nervous smile plastered on her face. Her eyes were begging me. Asterisk? Play along, Leo. Please. Asterisk. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. It wasn't loud or violent. It was a quiet, clean break. The part of me that had been holding out hope, the stupid, childish part that thought this dinner could fix things, just withered and died. I looked at Amber, her smile still open and waiting. I kept my voice perfectly level, almost conversational. I got kicked out. The three of them stared at me. The background roar of the party seemed to fade into a dull hum. Josh blinked. What, like as a joke? Your dad kicked you out of the house for your birthday. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a strangled cough. No, I said, my gaze unwavering. Not as a joke. On my 18th birthday, my present was my dad telling me to pack a bag and get off his property. The silence that followed was absolute. It was a dense, heavy thing that sucked all the air out of our little circle. Amber's smile vanished, replaced by a look of wide-eyed horror. Kevin suddenly found the scuff on his Italian leather shoes fascinating. Josh's jaw, which had seemed so perfect a minute ago, was just hanging open. "Oh," Amber said, her voice a tiny whisper. I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said, taking a sip of the water I'd been holding. It tasted like freedom. It saved me a lot of money on rent. I set the glass down on the bar, the clink loud in the sudden quiet between us. I gave them a small, tight nod and walked away, leaving them frozen in a tableau of rich kid awkwardness. I didn't go far. I found a spot near a potted fern and just watched. It didn't take long. I saw Amber lean over and whisper something to her mother. The mother's eyes widened and shot straight to my father. Then she turned and whispered to the woman next to her. It was like a virus. A quiet, vicious little contagion spreading through the room. A murmur here, a pointed glance there. The booming laughter around my father started to sound strained. One of his brothers clapped him on the shoulder, said something brief, and then walked away with a look that was anything but brotherly. Another man who had been listening intently to one of my father's stories suddenly remembered he needed another drink. My father felt the shift. I watched him scan the room, his smile faltering as he tried to figure out why the temperature had just dropped 20 degrees. His eyes darted around, searching for the source of the problem. And then they found me. Standing by the fern, I met his gaze from across the ballroom. He didn't have to ask. He knew. The mask of the proud father and successful alumnus melted away, and for a split second I saw the man who had thrown my bag onto the lawn. I saw pure, undiluted rage. It was a look that promised consequences. My mother caught his eye, then looked at me, her face pale with panic. She started to walk towards me, but I didn't give her the chance. I'd done what I came here to do, even if I hadn't known it an hour ago. I was done being a prop. I turned, walked past the coat check, and pushed through the heavy oak doors back into the quiet marbled lobby. The noise of the party was cut off behind me. I didn't look back. I walked straight out of the revolving doors, past the valets who still wouldn't look at me, and into the cool night air. The bus ride home felt longer than usual. The smell of burnt fabric softener from the laundromat had never been so welcoming. I was in the middle of making a sad instant ramen dinner when my phone started buzzing. It was a text from my father. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What did you do, asterisk? I ignored it. The water wasn't boiling yet. A minute later, it buzzed again. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Answer me. Bill just asked me if I was having family problems. What the hell did you say, asterisk? I dumped the noodles into the pot. Another buzz. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, 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 you little bastard. You did this on purpose. 25 years of friendship, and you embarrassed me in front of every single one of them. Asterisk. I stirred the noodles with a fork. My phone buzzed again and again. It was a frantic, furious rhythm against the countertop. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, 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 this is what you do. After we try to bring you back in, after everything we did for you, this is the thanks we get, you're ungrateful. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I hope you're happy. You've ruined it. You've ruined everything. Don't ever contact us again. Asterisk. 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 Dad. Asterisk. 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 You're dead to me. Asterisk. The text stopped. The little apartment was silent except for the bubbling of the pot on the stove. I read the last message again. Asterisk. You're dead to me. Asterisk. He'd screamed the same thing at me 2 years ago. Nothing had changed. There was never going to be a real apology, never going to be a heart-to-heart. He wasn't sorry he'd kicked me out. He was just sorry people knew. I drained the noodles, dumped them in a bowl, and tore open the flavor packet. Sitting on my lumpy couch, I scrolled back through the messages. The fragile bridge we had spent the last 6 months building was a pile of ash. He'd burned it down without a second thought. All because his image had been tarnished. I ate the salty noodles in the quiet of my shoebox. For the first time in 2 years, I had told the truth. I had stood up for the kid on the porch with his life in a backpack. The victory felt clean and sharp. But as I sat there alone in the flickering light of a street lamp outside my window, a cold question settled in my gut. Was it worth it?
Story 12.
My phone buzzed on the coffee table, a quick, insistent vibration. Alex and I were in the middle of our weekly ritual, a soul-crushing session of some fantasy video game where we were both getting annihilated. He grunted, mashing his controller. I glanced at the screen. A new group chat. You were added to Alex's Surprise 25th. I blinked. My first thought wasn't anger. It was just confusion. Asterisk, our times 25th was a week away. We always did something together. Dinner with our parents, then a big messy night out at a dive bar with all our friends. It was tradition. Simple. shared. "What's up, Alex?" asked, not looking away from the dragon, currently incinerating his character. Nothing, I said, picking up the phone. Just spam. I opened the chat. It was a flurry of messages. The organizer, Chloe, a friend of Alex's from his art class, had already laid out the entire plan. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. "Hey everyone, so as you know, our favorite guy Alex is turning the big 2 to 5 next Saturday. I want to do a surprise dinner for him at the Grove to show him how much we all love him. Please, RSVP by Wednesday so I can get a final head count." And remember, SHHHHHA. It's a secret from the birthday boy asterisk. Asterisk. Our favorite guy asterisk. Him. My thumb scrolled up a knot tightening in my stomach. I saw the list of participants. Mark, Dave, Liam, all our friends since high school. Then I saw another name that made my blood run cold. Maya. They had added my girlfriend. My girlfriend of 3 years was in a group chat for my birthday and I wasn't. I kept scrolling past a dozen I'm in, messages and clapping emojis. Right at the bottom, just above the message that notified me I'd been added, was Chloe's afterthought. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, 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 oh, and I'll add Sam. Obvi, he can come too. Asterisk. Obvi. Like I was a goddamn accessory. A+1 to my own twin brother's birthday party. The party that was also supposed to be times my times party. I put the phone down, my hands suddenly clammy. The sounds of the game explosions, Alex cursing, faded into a dull roar in my ears. 24 years, we'd shared everything. The same room, the same car, the same friends. The same goddamn face. The same birthday. We weren't just brothers. We were a package deal, Sam and Alex. It was one word to most people. I picked the phone back up and sent a text to Maya, my fingers trembling slightly. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You see this group chat asterisk? Her reply was instantaneous. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I was waiting for you to text me. I am so fucking pissed for you, Sam. What is she doing, asterisk? Validation. A small, precious wave of it washed over me. I wasn't crazy. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, 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 I don't know. Invited as a guest to my own birthday? A new low? Asterisk? Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It's not just that. It's the whole for him thing. Like you don't exist. Don't let her do this. Asterisk. Back in the group chat, the conversation was still rolling. Our friend Mark, always the diplomat, threw a life raft. Asterisk, asterisk, Mark, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Awesome idea, Chloe. So this is for both of them, right? Table for the whole crew, plus the 2 birthday boys. Asterisk. I held my breath, watching the 3 little dots appear and disappear as Chloe typed her response. It felt like an eternity. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. This is just a special thing a few of us wanted to do for Alex. But of course, Sam is more than welcome to come celebrate with us. The more the merrier. Asterisk. The smiley face felt like a punch in the gut. She'd managed to make it sound like Mark was the one being weird. She painted me as an add-on, a bonus guest. If I came, I was crashing Alex's special night. If I didn't, I was the bitter antisocial twin who couldn't be happy for his brother. She had me in a goddamn checkmate. Dude, you alive over there, Alex said, finally pausing the game. You look like you saw a ghost. Just got a weird work email, I lied, forcing a smile. All good. I couldn't tell him. The whole point was that it was a surprise. A surprise that was methodically and meticulously erasing me from my own life. I felt a hot surge of anger followed by a cold, hollowing sense of hurt. All our friends were in there. They saw the messages. They saw how Chloe was framing it. And they were all still RSVPing yes. Dave, Liam, guys I'd known since we were 5. Did none of them think this was bizarre? Did they not care? Maya and I texted back and forth for the next hour. She was furious, calling Chloe every name in the book. It helped. It made me feel less alone in this Twilight Zone episode. This is a power play, Maya texted. She's always been weirdly possessive of Alex. I knew she was right. Chloe had a habit of acting like she was his best friend, his sister, his everything all rolled into one. She'd sideline me in conversations, make inside jokes with him that pointedly excluded me. I'd always just brushed it off as insecurity. But this was different. This was a declaration. I decided I had to do something. I couldn't let her win. I couldn't just not show up. That would only create a different kind of drama, one where Alex was caught in the middle and I looked like a jealous jerk. I would be the bigger person. I'd go, I'd smile, I'd toast my brother, and I'd let the sheer awkwardness of the situation speak for itself. Taking a deep breath, I opened the group chat again. The conversation had died down. It was my turn to play the game. Asterisk, asterisk me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hey Chloe, thanks for organizing. Looks great. Maya and I are in. Just confirming we've got 2 spots. Asterisk. I hit send. It felt both mature and deeply humiliating. Having to ask for a seat at my own birthday dinner. I watched the screen, my heart pounding, a nervous rhythm against my ribs. A minute passed. 2. Then the dots. Chloe was typing. This was it. She'd say, of course, and the weirdness would be over, at least for now. We'd go be uncomfortable and we'd deal with the fallout later. The message popped up in the chat, visible to all 22 members. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, 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 OMG, hey Sam. So great, you guys can make it. I actually just got off the phone with the Grove to give them the final head count, and the table is completely maxed out. They're totally slammed. Saturday. So, sorry about that. Maybe you and Maya can stop by the bar for a drink after dinner and catch us then. My bad, asterisk. The air left my lungs. My bad. A 2-word apology capped with a cringe emoji for erasing my existence. It was so brazen, so dismissively cruel, I almost had to laugh. The chat was silent. 22 people had just watched me get uninvited for my own birthday, and not one of them said a word. My phone buzzed with a private text from Maya. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, 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 do not fucking go, Sam, do not go to that bar. That is an order, asterisk. A second later, another text. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That is the rudest thing I have ever seen. I'm coming over to asterisk. The front door opened and closed 10 minutes later. She didn't say anything, just walked into the living room, took the controller from my hand, and pulled me into a hug. Alex was still in his room oblivious on a call with his art class TA. Okay, she said, pulling back, her eyes flashing. Here's what we are not going to do. We are not going to stop by for a drink. We are not going to legitimize this bullshit by playing the part of the happy, gracious afterthought. We are going to let her have her little party for Alex, and we are going to let your absence be a giant gaping hole in the middle of it. A few texts trickled in from my friends. Asterisk, asterisk. Mark asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Dude. That's messed up. Asterisk. Asterisk. Asterisk, Dave. Asterisk. 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 WTF. Was that asterisk? They saw it. They knew. But they were still going. That was the part that stung the most. Their discomfort wasn't enough to make them take a stand. It just made me feel more alone. What do? I asked Maya, my voice hollow. If I don't go, Alex will be hurt. He won't understand. He'll understand when you show him the receipts, she said, her voice firm. He's your twin. He'll be more pissed off than you are. You have to trust him. She was right. My loyalty was to Alex, not to Chloe's pathetic social climbing. My loyalty was to myself. I picked up my phone, my resolve hardening into steel. I didn't reply in the group chat. I didn't give Chloe the satisfaction. I just left the group. Then I booked 2 tickets for the new sci-fi blockbuster for Saturday night, the same time as the dinner. We're going to the movies, I told Maya, showing her the confirmation email. We're getting the biggest popcorn they sell, and we're going to turn our phones off. The next afternoon, the apartment was quiet. Alex was sketching at the kitchen table, a mountain of shredded gift wrap on the floor beside him. He looked up when I walked in, a sheepish grin on his face. Hey. Sorry about last night, man. It was a lot. Chloe's crazy. Yeah, I said, my voice flat. I sat down across from him. We need to talk about that. I know, I feel bad. I told her we always do our birthday together. She said you were busy with a work thing and couldn't make dinner, but that you were going to try and come for drinks. My blood ran ice cold. She said, what? That you had a work deadline. That's what she told everyone who asked where you were. I figured it must have been a last-minute thing. I just stared at him. The lie was so clean, so simple. It painted me as the absent, career-focused brother, and her as the thoughtful friend who tried to include me. Without a word, I took out my phone. I opened my texts, found the screenshots. Maya had insisted I take of the group chat and slid the phone across the table to him. He picked it up, a confused frown on his face. I watched him read. I saw his eyes scan over the initial invitation for times him, asterisk. I saw them linger on Mark's question and Chloe's dismissive response. I saw his knuckles turn white as he read the final exchange, the one where I was told the table was full. Where Chloe said times. My bad, asterisk. He looked up from the phone, and for the first time in my life, I saw pure, unadulterated fury in my brother's eyes. It wasn't directed at me. It was for me. What the hell is this? He said, his voice dangerously low. That's what Chloe planned, I said quietly. That's why I wasn't there. She told everyone that you just couldn't make it. He shoved the phone back across the table, shaking his head in disbelief. That is the most rude, manipulative, stupid thing I have ever seen. A guest, no room. Is she insane? The relief that washed over me was so total it almost buckled my knees. He got it. He didn't hesitate, didn't try to defend her. He was with me. I didn't want to ruin your surprise, I said. Sam, this times was times the surprise. He stood up and started pacing the kitchen. I can't believe Mark and Dave and the guys went along with this. They texted me. They felt weird about it, I offered. Weird about it, he scoffed. They should have walked out. I would have walked out. He stopped pacing and looked at me, the anger in his eyes softening into something else. Hurt. Regret. I'm so sorry, man. I swear I had no idea. I know, I said. And I did. The fallout was swift. Alex must have made some calls because my phone lit up. Mark called first, apologizing profusely. We should have said something in the chat, man. We're idiots. Let us make it up to you. Joint birthday bash this weekend, our treat. For both of you. The Times, Real Times birthday. 2 weeks later, we were at a crowded house party. The new official Sam and Alex birthday had been a blast, just our core friends, a cheap bar, and a lot of laughs. It felt right. Alex hadn't spoken to Chloe since our conversation, just sent her a curt text saying what she did was unacceptable. I was standing with Maya and Alex by the keg when the front door opened. In walked Chloe. She hadn't been invited. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on our group. She smirked, said a loud hello to someone across the room, and then made a show of walking right past us, pointedly ignoring me and Maya as if we were pieces of furniture. She beelined for a vacant armchair a few feet away from our circle, expecting, I guess, for Alex to follow her. He didn't move. He took a sip of his beer, his eyes fixed on me. Chloe sat there alone, the silence stretching. She kept glancing over her smile, looking more and more strained. Maya leaned into me, whispering loud enough for Alex to hear. Wow. She's being really witchy, isn't she? Alex glanced at Chloe, then back at us. A small, definitive smile touched his lips. Yeah, he agreed, turning his back to her completely. She is.
Story 13.
4 years. That's how long it had been. When I met Sophia, I was 24 and she was 31. She was from South America, a whirlwind of energy and ambition with a laugh that could disarm a bomb. I was just a kid. A kid with a decent job, but still coasting on the fumes of university life. I fell for her hard. She was everything I wasn't, worldly decisive, and she knew how to cook more than just toast. A year in, we moved in together. That's when the cracks started to show, and they were all my fault. I'd never lived out of home, not really. My contribution to the household was basically existing. Dishes piled up. The laundry basket overflowed. I was a domestic black hole. Sophia worked a brutal fly-in, fly-out schedule at a mine site 2 weeks on, 1 week off. She'd come home exhausted, ready to collapse, and walk into a house that looked like a student dorm after a bender. She'd sigh, tie her hair up, and just start cleaning. I'd offer a clumsy, "Sorry, I was going to do that," but my excuse was always the same. My face was buried in my laptop, obsessively tracking stocks and crypto. "I'm building our future, Soph," I'd say, pointing at some incomprehensible chart. "This is how we get ahead. We buy a house, we invest, we win." In my head, I was the provider, the visionary. In reality, I was a passenger. She was the one paying half the bills, times and times, doing all the work. We did buy the house, a huge milestone that felt more like her achievement than ours. We just lodged the de facto visa application, tying our lives together with government-stamped paperwork. I was her sponsor. Her future in Australia was legally tethered to me. The pressure was immense, but I was too busy staring at spreadsheets to really feel it. The strain bled into every corner of our life, especially the bedroom. It became a dead zone. For over a year, nothing. I'd try to initiate to bridge the growing chasm between us. I'd buy condoms trying to be responsible, and she'd have a sudden headache. Or the box would mysteriously disappear from the bedside table, only to turn up in the back of a bathroom cabinet a week later. She'd find any reason to start a fight right as we were getting into bed. It was sabotage, plain and simple. An active, methodical dismantling of our intimacy. I just couldn't see it for what it was. I thought I was the problem. If I could just make more money, secure our future, then she'd relax. Then she'd want me again. I was so wrong. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. She'd just gotten home from her 2-week swing. I'd had a week to get the house in order. I hadn't. The sink was full, dirty clothes were heaped on the laundry chair, and I was on the couch, laptop open, tracking a dip in the market. She didn't yell. It was worse. She just stood in the doorway, her work bag still on her shoulder, and looked at the squalor. Then she looked at me. Her face was hollowed out with exhaustion. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice flat dead. "I come home from 14 days of hell in the desert to this. To a second job." She gestured around the room. "I feel like I'm living with a child." "You know what you are, Andrew. You're a dropkick." Asterisk, dropkick, asterisk. The word hit me like a physical blow. A useless, hopeless idiot. She was right. In that instant, something inside me snapped. It was a full system reboot. The fog of my financial obsessions evaporated, and I saw myself through her eyes. I saw the lazy, selfish boy she was shackled to. I closed the laptop. "You're right," I said. It was all I could manage. That night I didn't sleep. The next morning I started. I scrubbed the kitchen until my knuckles were raw. I cleaned the bathroom, did 3 loads of laundry, and vacuumed the entire house. I downloaded recipes and started cooking proper meals. I detailed her car. I mowed the lawns. I became a machine of domestic competence. I was determined to prove her wrong to become the man she deserved. I kept it up. For months. The house was spotless. Dinner was on the table when she got home from her local shifts. I took on all the mental load, managed the bills, planned our weekends. I had transformed. I was finally the partner I should have been all along. And the strangest thing happened. It got worse. She became more distant than ever. My efforts were met with a polite, "That's nice," or a non-committal shrug. The wall between us grew higher, thicker. She stopped looking me in the eye. When I'd lean in to kiss her, she'd turn her head at the last second, offering me her cheek like I was a distant uncle. Every touch was deflected. Every attempt at a real conversation was shut down with, "I'm just tired." I was going insane. I'd done everything she wanted. I'd changed completely. What else was there? I lay awake at night, my mind racing. Asterisk. What am I doing wrong? What more can I possibly do times I felt like I was trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it, pouring all my energy and love into a relationship that was draining away for reasons I couldn't comprehend. I was more alone lying next to her than I had ever been in my life. This afternoon, I decided to deep clean her home office. It was the one space I'd neglected. A surprise for when she got home. I dusted the shelves, organized her paperwork, and wiped down her desk. Her laptop was sitting there closed. I just needed to move it to clean underneath. As I picked it up, the screen flickered to life. It must not have been fully shut down. And there it was. A chat window was open on the screen. A message from a guy named Marco. The last message, sent just 20 minutes ago, was a single line that made the blood drain from my face. Counting the seconds until you're back on site. Last swing was epic. He has no idea, does he? My heart hammered against my ribs. I clicked on the window, and I started to scroll up. Months of it. Explicit, detailed, obscene messages. Photos, plans. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a full-blown affair with some younger guy from the mine. I scrolled back, my hands shaking, trying to pinpoint when it started. And then I saw it. The date on the first flirtatious messages. It was the week after she called me a dropkick. The week I started changing. She hadn't been falling out of love with me as I transformed into a better man. She had already left. I just sat there in her stupidly clean office staring at the screen. The words blurred through the tears welling in my eyes. The irony was a stake through the chest. She didn't cheat on the useless, immature kid. She cheated on the man she supposedly always wanted me to be. Then I heard it. The sound of her car crunching gravel in the driveway. The engine cut out. The car door slammed shut. Her footsteps were coming up the path. The front door opened and closed. "Andrew, I'm home," she called out, her voice laced with that fake cheerful tone she'd been using for months. I didn't move from the chair. I just listened to her footsteps on the hardwood floor, the rustle of her bag being dropped on the couch. Silence. She must have noticed the house was unusually quiet. "Andrew," she said again, her voice closer now. She appeared in the office doorway. Her smile was already in place, but it faltered when she saw me, saw the laptop open on her desk, saw the expression on my face. Her eyes flicked from me to the screen and back again. The color drained from her cheeks. I didn't raise my voice. I kept it low steady. "Who's Marco?" She didn't even try to lie. She just stared at me, her mouth a thin line. Her silence was the only confession I needed. "I asked you a question, Sophia." "He's a guy from work," she mumbled, looking at the floor. "A guy from work," I repeated the words, tasting like acid. "The guy from work whose epic last swing you're still thinking about. The guy from work you've been sending photos to. The guy from work you've been fucking for months." She flinched at the word, but her face hardened, a mask of defiance clicking into place. "It's not what you think." "Oh, I think it is," I said, standing up slowly. The screen cast a pale blue light on her guilty face. "I think you're a liar and a cheat. The only question I have is why." "We'd grown apart," she said, her voice cold, clinical. "I fell out of love with you, Andrew." The sheer breathtaking audacity of it stole my breath. "You fell out of love with me," I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I pointed a shaking finger toward the living room. "When? When I was that dropkick? Who left his dishes in the sink? When I was glued to my laptop ignoring you? No. That's not when it started, was it?" I gestured back at the screen. "It started the week after you called me out. The week I started cleaning this house, cooking your meals, trying to be the man you supposedly wanted." I stepped closer, invading her space. "You didn't cheat on the lazy kid. You cheated on the man who was trying his damn best for you. For times us, asterisk. You had your affair while I was scrubbing your fucking toilet. So don't you dare stand there and tell me you fell out of love. You're just a coward." Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of anger, of being caught. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I snapped. "Pack your things. I want you out. Tonight." "You can't do that. The house, my visa." A switch flipped inside me. The grief was still there, a hot rock in my gut, but a cold, clear certainty settled over it. "The house is half mine. You can have your share when we sell." "And the visa," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket, "is sponsored by me. Your de facto partner." Funny thing about that, that we're not a de facto couple anymore, are we? Lying on a government form is fraud, Sophia. And I'm not going to commit fraud for you. Her face went pale with panic. "Andrew, please, don't. You'll ruin my life." "You ruined ours," I said, turning my back on her. I walked into the living room and found the number for our immigration agent. She followed me, pleading, arguing, but it was just noise. I left a blunt voicemail. "Hi, it's Andrew. I'm calling to inform you that Sophia and I have separated. I am formally withdrawing my sponsorship for her partner visa effective immediately. Please send me whatever paperwork I need to sign." I hung up. She was staring at me, her mouth open in disbelief. "Get out of my house," I said. The next few weeks were a blur of cold logistics. Lawyers, real estate agents, bank meetings. We communicated only through text messages and emails, sterile and to the point. I had my parents co-sign a loan to buy out her half of the house. I wanted her name off the title and out of my life as quickly as possible. Signing those final papers, handing over a bank check for her share of our life together felt like an exorcism. Once she was gone, she started trying to crawl back in. Not with apologies, but with small, pathetic gestures. A text with a photo of a dog that looked like one we saw once. "Thinking of you," it read. I blocked her number. She sent an email a week later. "Just wanted to see if you got that package I left." I went to the porch. A box with a new espresso machine, the brand I'd been wanting. I left it on the curb. She tried dropping off a meal prep container of my favorite lasagna at my parents' place. My mom met her at the door and told her politely but firmly to never come back. Each attempt was a transparent, self-serving bid for absolution or worse, a ploy to get me to reconsider the visa. She didn't miss me. She missed the life, the security I provided, the convenience of me. I fell apart for a while. I moved back in with my parents, the prodigal dropkick returning home. I couldn't stand being in the house where every room held a memory that was now tainted. For 2 months, I barely functioned. I grieved the woman I thought she was, and I grieved the man I had been the fool who couldn't see what was right in front of him. But slowly, I started putting the pieces back together. I rented out my house, letting the tenants pay down the mortgage I'd fought to keep. I started going to the gym again. I focused on my work, on my investments, but this time with a sense of purpose, not obsession. It wasn't for us anymore. It was for me. About 6 months after the split, I got a message from a mutual friend. A screenshot from Sophia's Instagram. A picture of her and Marco smiling with the caption, "Permanent resident, celebrating the next chapter in Australia, with my love." I stared at the picture. I felt nothing. No anger, no jealousy, no pain. I didn't know how she'd managed it. A new sponsor, some other loophole, and I found I didn't care. Her life was no longer my concern. The knot of betrayal in my stomach, the one I'd been carrying for months, had finally dissolved. I put my phone down and looked out the window. The sun was setting. I had my own life to build. I realized she'd given me a gift in her betrayal. She'd shown me her true colors. Her love had been a transaction, and when she found a better deal, she took it. Her calling me a dropkick wasn't a wake-up call for me to be a better partner for her. It was just her excuse to check out. I had changed for her, but now I was changing for myself. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt free.